Welcome to the American Le Mans Series live from the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. The Mosport name may have changed, but the intensity has not.
Calgary, there's a touch there.
This is where the speed and danger of sports car racing means that every moment of triumph is earned with precise strategy and steely nerves.
Oh, look at how tight this is.
Muscle Milk Pickett Racing comes north, riding a 3-race win streak. But can they continue to dominate the Dyson Racing Mazda?
Muscle Milk HPT gets up the inside of the Mazda Lola and goes through. We've got a new leader.
In a wide-open GT class, will Corvette claim its season's 3rd win and 10th at this track? Will Porsche continue the success found just 2 weeks ago in Connecticut? Or can BMW claim a prize at a track that they feel owes them one? We'll find out with the 13th running of the American Le Mans Series Grand Prix of Mosport.
The American Le Mans Series. World-class drivers, premier road courses and cutting-edge technology. Born in France in 1923 with the first running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the American Le Mans Series is the glory and the grueling reality of world-class sports car racing. 5 separate classes racing on the track at the same time. Drivers from around the world strut their speed, skill and endurance. It's the chain that connects the new and the true sports car fans to an extraordinary racing tradition. This is the American Le Mans Series.
ESPN and the American Le Mans Series proud to bring you live coverage of round 5 of the 2012 season, the Grand Prix of Mosport. As always, fans turn out in droves at the racetrack simply once known as Mosport, now known as Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. They love their sports car racing, and this is one of the most daunting tracks the drivers will face all year. 5 different classes of cars in the American Le Mans Series. Start with prototypes. They are purpose-built race cars. In the P1 category, open cockpit or closed, engines up to almost 600 horsepower and speeds in excess of 200 miles an hour on long racetracks. P2, the little brothers, still purpose-built, open cockpit and coupes, a little less horsepower, a little less speed, still high-tech machines. And Prototype Challenge, they are spec cars, just like the GT Challenge cars. In the GT category, all of the cars made by the same manufacturer. In GT, however, choose your weapon. Large manufacturers, they need to produce at least 100 cars. Small manufacturers, at least 25. And then they are homologated to go racing in the American Le Mans Series. Those are a look at our 5 different classes. The prototypes, they are the fastest. For more on the P1 category, let's go to the first of our pit reporters, Jamie Howell.
Klaus Graf earned Muscle Milk Pickett Racing's 3rd consecutive pole here for the Mosport Grand Prix. Klaus, the first 2, those turned into race wins. You said when you race here, you lose all consciousness of speed. How challenging will that make the race?
Well, it'll be very challenging with the traffic here because, you know, even though the track is quite long and you think it has a good flow, but there's not too many places we can overtake. So we have to be patient, and that's hard because our speed when we go on ourselves is so high that we really have to slow down the car sometimes to you know, wait for overtaking opportunity, and that's difficult sometimes, you know. So our patience gonna be you know, has to be pretty big, and Lucas and I have to really make sure we make no mistakes.
You talk about the patience, 5 different classes of cars on the track at the same time. How big of a role does traffic play in a race like this?
Always. It's what ALMS makes it so interesting, you know. That's what it's all about. I mean, it's the mixture of the classes and the races within the race. That's really a cool part of the ALMS, and I think that's very interesting for the fans. And it's going to be the same here again, and the key will be make no mistakes, as always.
Team looking to extend their championship points lead today.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Brian Till along with Johnny O'Connell. Welcome to round 5 of the 2012 season. The next 4 rounds come in very quick succession once we leave Canada, and this is one of the most challenging racetracks that these drivers will face all year long. If you have an incident here, chances are it's going to be a big one. So, Johnny O'Connell, you've won here 7 times. As a driver, does that change your approach when you think championship? Do you hold back a little bit here to survive?
Well, you know what, myself, I've always been a factory guy, and so my job is to win races, not to worry about championships, to represent my manufacturer. But if I'm a smaller team, I probably might be a little bit more conservative, Brian, because if I do have a wreck, my team might not have the capability of repairing the car before the next round.
And think about a young driver wanting to perform on this stage. As he steps up to the plate, does he swing for the fences and risk striking out?
I've always been a swing for the fences type of guy. You know, when I was younger, my motto was either win or be spectacular. So if I'm a young guy trying to make a career, I want to do some amazing things out there.
And we may very well see some amazing things here today. We've already heard about prototype stories. For more on the GT class, here's Kelly Stavis.
Brian, this season is shaping up to be an inter-squad battle between the two Corvettes. They occupy the top 2 spots in the GT point standings, and they start 1-2 here today. Jan Magnussen set a new qualifying lap record in the number 3 Corvette. Jan, you guys have finished second 3 times this season, but you have yet to win. What will be the key to picking up that first win here today?
We have to put together a perfect race. We've been strong and had the possibilities to win, I think, at every race so far, but we've just made small mistakes when it really mattered. So with the competition being as hard as it is, then no mistakes. That's the key. Just do a clean race and get through, be fast, be clever in traffic.
And no competition is tougher than your sister car, the number 4 Corvette. What is that dynamic like between these two cars?
Well, there's a fine balance of what we can do in racing situations, but we are still racing for a championship, so it's full on. But of course there are some rules about not hitting the yellow car.
All right, well, it'll be Jan's teammate Antonio Garcia starting in the number 3.
We talk about how daunting this racetrack is. It was simply known as Mosport for the longest time. 2.5 miles, 10 turns. Who better to take us around for our Patron track map than a driver who started his career here?
Hi, I'm Kyle Marcelli from Barrie, Ontario. We're here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. This is my home track. Just follow me on a lap. We are flying through turn 1, flat out, getting up to 150 miles an hour here as we approach turn 2. As you can see, it is completely blind. One of the most challenging corners on this racetrack. Us and the prototypes, we could be overtaking GT cars here. It is so significant that you get the turn in for turn 2 correct. Here we are in turn 3, the most difficult corner for me personally. 2 types of surface, concrete and asphalt. Very difficult to get a car working properly through here. It is so bumpy. This corner rewards patience. I'm standing here at the apex of turn 3. You got to be right next to this curbing. This is where you want to be back to full power. If you're back to power too early, you're off the road on the exit. So as you can see at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, it is go, go, go. There is no room for error on this racetrack. We are flying at 160 miles an hour into turn 8, personally my favorite corner on the racetrack. In a prototype, it is nearly flat out. It's a small lift just before you turn in and then you're back to power. After turn 8, it's a quick turn 9, turn 10, cross the stripe and do it again.
Well, there's nothing Kyle Marcelli would love to do than to celebrate a victory here at his home track, but there have been plenty of celebrations already in the paddock this weekend down at Muscle Milk Pickett Racing. It was birthday weekend for drivers Lucas Lohr and Klaus Graf. They had birthday cake. A couple of crew members with birthdays as well, so they celebrate with a birthday cake. Look at Lucas. He looks a little devious. Why? Because he's going to turn, and you got it. Happy birthday, Klaus. He thinks he gets away with it, but Klaus gets it, or Lucas gets it as well. We'll be back to more from the Grand Prix of Mosport.
comes to fun family getaways, it's got to be Holiday Inn Club Vacations. Room to be yourself.
Welcome back to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, a venue that's been such an integral part of the American Le Mans Series since its inception. But Jeremy Shaw, a venue that we hardly recognised when we pulled up here yesterday.
No, it's a fantastic racetrack here, but Ron Fellows and the new ownership group here have done an amazing amount of work over the last 12 months or so. They've reprofiled a whole bunch of the hillsides. For the fans, it's a completely new experience in many ways, and a really, really good one. It's a great place to watch racing. For the drivers, though, importantly, they've absolutely retained the character of the racetrack, haven't really changed the racetrack at all, and it's a real challenge for the drivers, and one which the drivers really feel they can make a difference, John.
And that's an interesting point, Jeremy, because this weekend we've got a couple of drivers who've gone to the top of their class, literally and metaphorically, a couple of new pole sitters.
Yeah, it's always good to see new faces on the block, and in PC we've got Colin Brown on the pole position for the first time in his ALMS career. Now, he's already a proven winner, he's won the last 2 races for Core Autosport, but that first pole, an important step for him. And in P2, it's Martin Plowman, the young Englishman for Conquest Endurance Team, alongside David Heinemeier Hansen. He's claimed his first ALMS pole, and for the first for that team. And both drivers, even the amateur driver David Heinemeier Hansen, have been very, very fast this weekend.
Well, as you can see from the BMW aerial camera, the cars are just pulling off the Ear of Corn grids. Let's get down and speak to some of the Prototype Challenge competitors. Earlier on, Kelly was with Kyle Marcelli.
Well, Kyle Marcelli is the hometown hero here in Toronto, a native here of Canada. And Kyle, we have seen moments of brilliance from you this season. Unfortunately, the team hasn't really been able to put together the results that you would look for. How much pressure is there to get it done today?
There's certainly pressure. I mean, this is definitely the home crowd. I love this place. It's great to get back here on this on home soil. You know, I wouldn't point fingers at anybody. It's a team effort. We've been so fast all year long, and it's been a little rocky road. We've had some bad luck, but hopefully it'll turn around this weekend. You know, we were very close to catching the pole position yesterday, and hats off to Colin Braun. He threw down a heater. So it looks to be a good race. We got a bit of a different strategy. Looks like it's different than most teams, and we'll see if it pays off.
Speaking of qualifying...
Qualifying was good also for Conquest Racing, and Jamie Howe has been down at their pits.
In P2, Conquest Racing unloaded from the truck strong this weekend, and Martin Plowman earned his first pole position, as well as the first for the team in the American Le Mans Series. Martin, it was a spectacular lap, but you guys have had strong moments all season long, but no wins yet. How do you capitalize on that today?
I think we just got to close the deal. You know, as you say, we've been strong and close to that win all year, but our biggest enemy has been ourselves. So if we start beating ourselves, reduce the errors that we make, you know, we're a new team with a very steep learning curve. So once we overcome that, we just got to get the win. There's no excuses today.
It's man versus man, it's man versus machine. Either way, it's a challenge.
And a little bit more of a challenge for the first of the 2 drivers we heard from there, that of Kyle Marcelli. He was judged to have been blocking Bruno Junqueira in practice and qualifying, and therefore his best lap was disallowed, so that bumps them down to 3rd position on the grid. But it's a long race. Let me be the first one to say that. There's a long way to go. Looking down on some of the earthworks that have already been completed, and look at how many cars are parked. The paddock unrecognisable, a new double tunnel just to the bottom right-hand side of that helicopter picture, and the first of 2 warm-up laps have been completed by the field. And we're going to have a great race today. We always get it on this racetrack. And welcome to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. It's John Hindhaugh and Jeremy Shaw. A particularly warm welcome to those of you who are watching on Sportsnet. And you join us as the cars are on their second of 2 warm-up laps. Time just enough to speak to our GTC pole sitter. That's Damien Faulkner with Kelly.
And Damien picked up his 2nd pole position of the season, and 2 years in a row now here in Canada. Damien, last year that pole position did not result in a win. How can you assure that it does here today for Green Hornet?
Well, thank you, Kelly. Yeah, it was great to get pole position for the Green Hornet racing team yesterday. The hardest working team in the paddock for sure. They just gave me a great car, and you know, all I did was drive it yesterday, really steer it around. You know, the preparation has been fantastic. My teammate and team owner Peter Lasafri is driving wonderfully well, and you know, just all the pieces are in place. We're just hoping that it's going to go to plan today.
Right, thanks, Damien.
Thank you.
Damien Faulkner, always just happy to be in a race car. A big smile from the Irishman there as he was listening on the public address system here. Damo, top bloke and loves his racing. Really brings a cheer and a little bit of sparkle, that Irish charm to the paddock here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Let's nip down to the paddock in the pits again with Jamie, our hardest working pit crew in motorsport. She's at CompuWare Corvette with Ollie Gavin.
And Ollie Gavin has 2 wins on the season, leading the GT Championship. But your teammate, he snuck one past you in qualifying. How do you turn this race around and put it in the number 4 car's favor?
Well, it was going to take great driving from both Tommy and I, and it's going to take some great teamwork. But the main important thing is to get a Corvette racing win here, and you know, we're in the best spot at the moment, front row. So, yeah, looking forward to the green and looking forward to get on with this. It's going to be great.
It's going to be a great race. Thanks, Ollie.
Thanks.
2 hours, 45 minutes, 5 classes, 1 racetrack, and the 5th round of the American Le Mans Series presented by Tequila Patron here north of the border in Canada at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Jeremy Shaw and John Hindhaugh. Lucas Luhr leading the field round in that celebration mode for all the birthdays in the Pickett Racing Muscle Milk HPD. The Honda-powered car, and just look at this. Is there anything better to look at than the sun shining down on polished race cars on board with the Level 5 Motorsport, one of many onboard cameras you'll get a look at this weekend, this Sunday. And just look in the left-hand side of that shot, you can see the cars lining up behind. Look at Lucas Luhr looking in his left-hand mirror to see where Chris Dyson is in the Mazda Lola, the Dyson Racing Inc. car. Through the final corner, green, 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 and Dyson gets the jump. And as soon as green is called, you are racing. You don't have to wait for the line. And Chris Dyson gets the jump on Lucas Luhr and heads off towards the skyline at turn 2, leading, and that is a big bonus for Dyson.
Big surprise too, because generally speaking, it's Lucas Luhr, I think, sort of outfoxed himself a little bit there. He was trying to be smart, and he outsmarted himself. And Chris Dyson, you know, the Lola Mazda Tim Dyson Racing, that coupe out in front of the field, they've had problems for the last few weeks, really getting heat into the tyres, really getting the car up to pace very, very quickly. But a great start there by Chris Dyson.
In the Moss corner, a double apex right-hander. Keep the car tucked in, Chris will here, because he doesn't want Lucas to stick the nose of that muscle milk machine up the inside. Now onto the back straight, the Andretti straight. Now, who has got the ponies here? I think that Mazda pulled out of the slow Moss corner pretty well there, but here comes Lucas Luhr with Honda power.
Well, he did. Chris did a really, really nice job. That's a great opening lap by Chris Dyson. He got the lead at the start, around the outside into turn 1, and that's flat out there, even away from the start line. And then it's a question of, you know, just positioning his car and not making a mistake, and he's done that beautifully around here. He slowed the car at the apex of Moss corner down turn 5, but I think now maybe Lucas Luhr's got to run down towards turn 1, but he's not going to pull it off this time. It's not there.
It's actually very clever driving by Chris Dyson in that blue and white coupe. He's positioning his car to make life difficult for that second place machine, and that's quite legal. He's not weaving around, he's claiming his piece of road and sticking to it. Now, nobody said you've got to open the door and say, after you, Claude, and this is exactly what Chris is doing. He knows the relative strengths and weaknesses of that blue and white coupe, and he's playing to them. And why shouldn't he?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, John, because, you know, they have been struggling. Both 2 weeks ago at Lime Rock Park, their home track, and particularly even more so this weekend at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, because they just haven't got that car working properly, and particularly it's getting those Dunlop tyres up to working temperature. And it's a little bit warmer this afternoon. I think that'll probably play into these guys' favour, but they certainly have been struggling with the handling of that car. It's been very nervous on the entry to the corners, and particularly the higher speed corners, and that really makes it very uncomfortable to drive.
Keith might have just trimmed that car out a little bit, because we haven't seen that kind of pull down the back straight from the little 2-litre turbocharged engine for this the lead car. And look at Tony Burgess, by the way, in third place. He's catching them up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Tony Burgess is a local driver here, massive amount of experience in prototype guys, but his first time in a P1 car this season.
Well, going across the top of turn 2, I don't think there's a chance here. Might have a little sneak as they go up the other side of the hill. You can almost feel the frustration from Lucas Luhr in second place at the moment, and he is not at 100% at the moment, Jamie Howe.
He certainly isn't. Frustration is only one of the things he's battling right now. He did twist his ankle just yesterday. We've all had to work out with a twisted ankle before. It's not pleasant. He's out there racing one of the most challenging tracks that we go to with a twisted ankle. I did talk to him on the grid, and he said when he gets into the car, though, it's pure adrenaline. He doesn't feel that pain, but right now he's not 100% done.
And how good was he not to say a nasty word in front of the camera there? Because I'm sure we've all done that before, and there may have been words that we didn't want to be seen on camera. And that was on the way to that birthday cake celebration that we showed you earlier on, and he still had good temperament and a bit of sense of humour there. It's tight, and how difficult is it at the moment for Lucas Luhr, because he's now trying to work out where he's got the advantage over Chris Dyson, who's leading.
Yeah, and I think he's got pretty much an advantage everywhere. He is going to be frustrated because he has a much faster car, particularly at this point in the race, but he's going to stick it down the inside, is he? Not quite. Again, good driving by both of these two. As we heard various drivers say at the top of the show, you've got to make sure you don't make any mistakes, and that includes being patient.
That's really brave, trying to force the issue there. It's no harm, no foul at the moment. I think he's moving around a lot, he's getting there, but he's not really pushing the question. He's not getting alongside and then backing out, and there's nothing worse from even the lead driver's point of view, from somebody getting there half-heartedly. You've got to know what you're doing. Chris comes out a little bit wider here, but he's on the power early.
He is, that's the key. He slows it down at the apex of the corner, then gets on the power, and there's really nothing that Lucas Luhr can do about it. It's a really good driving here by Chris Dyson. Yes, he's been defensive, but as you say, he's not doing anything overt or undue.
I remember Chris Dyson battling with JJ Leto some years ago in the American Le Mans Series up at Portland, and he held him off for an hour and 45 minutes. It was brilliant stuff, and I wonder if we're going to get the same sort of drive from Chris today as Lucas closes right up into the almost flat out turn number one. Look how bumpy it is here. Lucas is there, but he's got nowhere to go. He's going to have to be a little more strategic than that. He's clearly got better performance and a better car underneath him, but at the moment Lucas is rather running out of ideas, I think.
I think he's going to be end of the Andretti straight away. He's going to have to make that pass for Lucas Luhr. You can see how much faster he was when they get up to turn 8, 9 and 10. He's so much faster through there. But what Lucas has really got to concentrate on now is getting a run out of these next two right-hand corners here. This is turn 5 and 5A, Moss Corner. This is where Lucas has got to be right on the power really early. He's done a much better job of it this time around.
I do think that the Dyson is running with less wing, and by that it means less cut.
Control has asked them to let you by.
What? That was Brandon Fry on the radio, the race engineer for Muscle Milk Racing on the radio to Lucas Luhr, saying that race control's asked him to let him by. I hope not. I wouldn't think so. I think he's just being, I don't know. I mean, to me, Chris Dyson isn't doing any blocking. He's not doing anything unfair here.
No, not at all. Now he's got to run this time. Driver's right. He's on the dirty side of the track. Oh, but Chris lifted out of that. Chris lifted out of that, so that's something that we'll get clarification from for you. But that is very interesting indeed, because for me there, Chris Dyson breathed on the throttle long before he needed to, before turn 1. Now, I wonder if that is being judged as a jump start. We heard green, 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 and Paul Walters, our clerk of the course, if you will, to use European parlance, told us as soon as the green was called, you were racing. So that might be something that we can go back and analyse later.
Yeah, that's a very good explanation for that, because if the Dyson Racing Lola Mazda was ahead slightly when the green was called, then that would be an infraction. You'd have to be the pole sitting car has to be at the front leading when the green is called, and I think that is what the situation was there.
I just checked in with Brandon Fry, the team manager for Muscle Milk Pickett Racing, and he said that that penalty on Chris Dyson was because he had jumped the start. They're on the instant messaging system with race control. They had been talking about this since the time the green flag fell. He said it's not the first time it's happened this season, and this time we really fought for it because this race, it means something in the championship.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and it's, you know, we're talking very, very small degrees here as the leaders are already among the GTC leaders. Peter Lasafra, just holds up the leader at the moment as we're looking forward to the JDX car. Now, here is the start. The left-hand side, yes, he's ahead there, look, he's ahead there. He's still ahead. And where was green called? I seem to remember it was just coming out of the final corner, and he was maybe half a car's length ahead. And I think, looking at that, he's ahead.
Yeah, I think so. I think Lucas really slowed it down the apex. Yeah, Lucas really slowed it down the apex of turn 10 to try and get Chris to make a move, and then he was planning on Chris backing out and in jumping past. Well, Chris didn't back out, to his credit. No, Chris is a racing driver as well. He's going to do everything he can to gain the advantage at the start. So, great driving, I think, by both of those two. Great call also by the officials to make that call. It was clearly an unfair advantage that Chris Dyson had gained at the start.
Guy Smith is Chris Dyson's teammate. He looked on. He knows what the ruling was there at the start. What's your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I think he made a good start. I mean, obviously he was on the outside coming in the last corner, and as he accelerated, it looked like Lucas braked, and Chris was already committed to going, and it just from that point of view, I don't think Chris did anything wrong. It looked like a jump start because Lucas slowed down, but it's one of those things. But Chris gave him the place back, and we'll carry on. But I thought he made a good start. So.
Regardless, you guys have been off the mark as far as pace with this car. Are you surprised to see how Chris is maintaining that speed?
He's doing a good job. I mean, I think they're still going to have the speed over us. Now that he's free, I think you'll see him pull away. But Chris said the car's behaving well. He's obviously had a good first few laps, and hopefully we can keep that for the rest of the race.
All right, thanks, Guy. Jamie?
For the other side of the story, Brandon Fry, you're the team manager here at Muscle Milk. That start when Chris Dyson jumped in, what is that process like for the team to get that ruling done?
Well, Lucas said to me that he was surprised that Chris went much earlier than he expected, and he's supposed to lead the field. So he says that is race control okay with that? So we just passed the message on, and I guess they reviewed it.
Thank you.
Well, that's
how everything is supposed to work. I mean, both of those drivers on the front row of the grid, they're trying to gain themselves an advantage. As it took, by the rule book, that was an unfair advantage that Chris Dyson effectively pulled on Lucas Luer there. So race control reviewed it, they made the call, and a good decision all around.
Not saying it was deliberate. No. He was doing what he was doing. And I've got to say, until I saw that BMW aerial cam shot, I thought that was all fair in love and war. But from that aerial shot, it was quite clear that Chris was ahead, and the right decision's been made, and Chris now has a bit of chasing to do. Let's have a look at some of the other 5 racers on the track at the same time. Remember Kyle Marcelli, we spoke to him at the start of the race. He knows this track very well, and what a great run round it he gave us on the Patron track description. Well, he started in 3rd position, and he has had a cracking first 8 laps, because not only has he got up from 3rd into 1st, but he is blowing the competition away almost 10 seconds ahead of the rest of the PC field.
In just 8 laps, because he is the only one. It's a professional, a Pro-Am class is PC Prototype Challenge. You have to, a professional driver has to be with an amateur driver, and Kyle Marcelli is the only one of the professionals who's actually at the wheel of their cars right now. So he's doing exactly what he should be doing, but he certainly is doing an excellent job. He's turning some very fast laps. In fact, 2 laps ago, his car was the fastest car on the track, quicker even than the race leader. But it's now Lucas Luer's got into his groove. He's now got down below the 1:10 bracket, a couple of seconds quicker.
Now this is prototype challenge, going straight through underneath into turn number 8, and gets the lead in the category. And that was that pass about 2 or 3 laps ago. And he has made hay in the Canadian sunshine at the moment. The Canuck started 3rd, leads the category already, coming round to put a lap on the 23 GT. That's the Lotus Evora, the battery tender. A bit like Lightning McQueen from the front, doesn't it? I think it does. Really needs to be rated, that car. The Evora doing much better this weekend for Alex Job Racing. It's a work in progress with the Yokohama tyres on that Lotus. It's a proper race car, and development work being done by Alex Job Racing, the team from Tavares in Florida, and they're moving in the right direction, no doubt.
Indeed, and by Cosworth on the engine as well. That work been done in England. So it really is a combined effort between Florida and England, and all sorts of Lotus based in England as well.
And here in the front of that category that the Lotus is running in is the GTs. Remember, it was the, I was going to say, whitewash at the front. It's a yellow wash, wasn't it, across that front row, because it is the CompuWare Corvettes, and it is as you were from the start with Antonio Garcia and Tommy Milner 1 and 2 in the 3 and 4 cars. You following me in front? And you can see they've pulled out a little bit of a gap, the 2 vets, to the 3rd and 4th place car. Oh, and as I say that, there's the 4 car slowing down. That is completely my fault. The curse of the commentator.
Is it going at all?
Lost drive by the sounds of it.
I think that's engine gone.
No drive at all. No drive.
That's Tommy Milner on the radio. No drive at all.
And I've cursed him. That is we talk about the curse of the commentator, and it could not have been any worse. So Bill Oberlin will slip up into second place and Pat Long in third.
I mean, I try to just keep as...
Oh, you can't stay there.
That's going to be bring out the safety car for certain. But of course, this is a championship leading car.
Yeah, massive championship implications in the first 13 minutes of round 5 of the American Le Mans Series, with Tommy Milner in mechanical problems. So, when do you see a Corvette with mechanical problems?
They're going to flat tow you to pit lane, Tom. They're going to flat tow you to pit lane.
Listening in on the radio, the crew chief for that number 4 car, Brian Hoy, was talking to his driver, Tommy Milner, and he was trying to talk him through the process to get it refired, and then all of a sudden he just gave up and he said, oh, never mind, it doesn't look like you're going to make it back to pit lane. So lots of frustration down in the Corvette camp right now.
And as you can see, Tommy is looking out at the
just
corner
came out
workers.
of 5 there, NTC a little bit, then went to shift to 3rd and just got, nothing, just lost all drive.
And what he's talking about there came out of in TC. Traction control was working a little bit, and listen carefully to the engine as he changes up through the gearbox here, coming out of Moss Corner. And down the hill first, all is fine here. Down through the gearbox. You can get back on the throttle about now. Ooh. Oh, that, you can hear the engine stuttering. That was him thinking it was TC. I'm not even sure it was that, Jeremy. And now he's trying to get a gear and failing.
Yeah, the rev limiter came in there as the engine just spun, as the car just wouldn't engage the next gear. So it certainly sounds like a major transmission problem there. It's hard to see that car getting back in the fray. I think there's no way that car's going to get back in the fray.
And a word for the marshals and the corner workers, by the way, who are giving instruction to Tommy Milner at the moment. There's a big recruitment drive up here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Canada. I've noticed a couple of golf carts going around. The pits are closed, and at exactly 15 minutes into the 2 hours and 45 of round 5 of the American Le Mans Series, we do have the first full course caution and a change for second place too, because Tony Burgess has got past Chris Dyson. So it's 6:20 and 16 under our first safety car period of the 5th round of the American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron. Stricken Corvette. There's no worse sight if that is your race car from the aerial cam. So we'll take a breath, and a hectic first 15 minutes comes to an end behind the safety car. Rest assured there'll be plenty more action when we come back to round 5 of the ALMS here in Canada.
Everything we ever thought up. Everything we fight for. Everything we dream of. Everything we are. The new 911. Porsche Identity.
Not just what we gave the new Corvette 427 that makes it special. It's what we didn't.
First day of spring. Oh, my battery is perfect.
Yep, we've been on a battery tender for 6 years.
Oh, I wish I could say the same.
What do you mean?
Old man forgot to plug me in.
Yeah, before I was on a battery tender, I flatlined. Ouch.
Well, at least this couldn't get any worse.
Don't let your batteries become a statistic. Connect a Deltran battery tender. Available at these fine retailers. If it's not a Deltran battery tender, it's just a pretender.
When it comes to fun family getaways, it's got to be Holiday Inn Club Vacations. Room to be yourself.
All the excitement of the American Le Mans Series is back.
Great flag, and we're racing at Baltimore!
Where technology races into the future and no man is better than his machine. Failure is always a threat when pushing development to its very edge. But survival makes success that much sweeter. This is where technology, passion, and danger meet to create a spectacular orchestra. The American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron, where the technology of speed and danger is everything.
Well, a brilliant opening to the 5th round of the American Le Mans Series here north of the border at the Canadian Tires Motorsport Park. Lucas Luhr, David Hennemeyer Hansen, Kyle Marcelli, Antonio Garcia and Peter Lesafra are your class leaders. First full course caution with the field tucked up behind the Porsche Panamera safety car. There is the leader of the race, and you can now rent Porsche Panameras from Hertz, thanks to a deal between themselves and the IMSA GT3 Cup Challenge by Yokohama. More about that later in the show. But let's get down to the pit lane. As we can see, the P2 cars are in the pit lane. We've got a full course caution, and that, I'm afraid, is bad news for Corvette.
That brilliant day that started for the race ended for the number 4 car, Doug Feehan. We know that Tommy said he lost drive on the radio. You have so much live telemetry. What are the indications? What went wrong?
Well, right now we know that the gearbox is shifting properly, but the car's not moving forward. He lost drive coming out of turn 5. So if we had to guess, it would probably be a half shaft or a drive shaft. We'll bring it back to the truck, take a look at that, evaluate it, get it repaired, and get back out there for points.
How long do you expect that to take?
It shouldn't take long, depending on what it is. I would suspect maybe about 10 minutes. Once we get it back, that's usually the biggest time consumer.
The boys in yellow can get it done. Thanks, Doug.
Yes, we can.
He manages to raise a smile. The car's already back into the paddock. If that is the case, Jeremy, not the first time that Corvette have had drive shafts or prov shaft problems. Remember Le Mans a couple of seasons ago, ironically behind the safety car there was an odd vibration that caused a problem. They do use carbon fibre parts there. Now,
it's only been a while though.
Yeah, no, it's very, very unusual. There is the Merchant Services racing car. Kyle Marcelli has come into the pits and gone back out in 3rd. There's been a shuffle, bit of a shuffle at the front of the field.
Yeah, I think Kyle Marcelli came in to hand over the car to Matt Downs, who is his co-driver. That is Matt on board the car now.
Yeah, black
helmet there. And this is Matt's first ever American Le Mans Series start, in actual fact. He was down to drive Petit Le Mans a couple of years ago, but didn't start that race. His brother Anthony, or Antonio as he's sometimes known, has been driven the car several times this season, but now this is the debut for Matt Downs.
So a bit of a tactical change there, putting Matt in the car right now. We've got 5 classes of racing out on the circuit, but we don't just race to the checkered flag first, as the GT cars now get their opportunity to come along pit road, because we're looking for clean, fast and efficient. What do I mean by that? Well, in the American Le Mans Series, the Michelin Green X Challenge is another way of measuring performance. Each of the cars are given a score in those 3 categories: clean, fast and efficient. There's a logarithmic scale, which I didn't do a lot of maths when I was at school, to be honest, so I trust the fact that the guys have come up with a fabulous formula. We add them together and the lowest number is the winner, just like in the British Open Golf this weekend, and we'll keep you up to date with those scores as we go through. Great pit stop from the BMW there, getting out right in front of the Flying Lizard Porsche. That was the way they came in. Now, interestingly, the leading car in GT, the teammate to the car that's caused the yellow flag, and there is the number 3 Chevy Corvette, has stayed out. Now, here's some word from the officials. We had a bit of a shake-up at the top of the timing and scoring screen just as we went into yellow, and we hear there's a couple of cars being investigated for potentially passing under yellow. As soon as we get the nod from race control, and they are very good with us here at the American Le Mans Series, the lines of communication are kept open, not like some racing series. As soon as we get the nod, we'll let you know which cars, if there are any, will be penalised. As Bill Oberlin is all arms and elbows in the BMW, one of their big competitors is Corvette, celebrating 60 glorious years of America's sports car. So our Johnny O'Connell this season has been taking a look at some of the great Corvettes of the past.
Corvette. All season long, we've been going through the different generations of this American icon. Right now, we're on the C4. It's the mid-1980s. Harlan Charles, tell us what was going on at Corvette.
Well, C4 came out in '84 and really took Corvette up to world-class performance levels. There was a focus on aerodynamics, and throughout the life cycle, we saw some new technologies introduced, like ABS brakes, traction control, selective ride control, and run-flat tires.
You know, now for me, this was when my racing career in cars was taking off, so what was Corvette doing in the racing world?
In 1990, the ZR1 set a record 24 hours at over 175 miles an hour, and that record stood for 11 years.
And what's really neat is that you see that relationship between production and racing continuing on through Corvette's history.
And Corvette has remained a leader through their generations of cars with continual innovations. Right, let's get back down to the pit lane. Another pit lane caller, this time one of the prototypes. It's the Dyson Racing Mazda.
There was a little bit of indecision whether or not Dyson was going to bring the number 20 in. You can see that they did. It was fuel only for Tony Burgess, who's doing a fantastic job in this car. His first time behind the wheel of this Dyson Lola Mazda, although he has countless laps here at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And it should be noted, we saw the 20 gain position on the 16. The team's telling me that happened under yellow, and the 20 is wanted to give that position back to the 16, so they shouldn't be penalized, but now they will be penalized for speeding in pit lane.
Oh, dear me. Trying to do the right thing for the team, and Tony Burgess on the way out clicks over quicker than 60 kilometers an hour and will take a stop-go penalty. So it's, as it stands at the moment, Lucas Luhr has not stopped. He is out in the lead in the Muscle Milk number 6 and leads the motor race and the clap. And as you saw there, the Porsche Panamera has got its lights out, Jeremy, so we're coming back to green. Interesting, talk to me about strategy. All the GT cars with 2 cars have split strategy. What are we talking about there?
That's right, the Flying Lizard team, the Extreme Speed Motorsport Ferraris, and also the BMWs. Each of those teams, 2-car teams. One of the guys made a pit stop, the other one did not.
Well, here comes Lucas Luhr, pressure back on him again. The Porsche Panamera safety car is already out of sight, so the field is under the control of birthday boy Lucas Luhr, and he's blown out the candles and hit the throttle as he goes across the start-finish line. We're racing again with 25 minutes now gone of the 2045. Big challenge for the lead in GT and GTC just behind that as well, with Peter Lasafra looking behind him. He's got the 11 car, that bright gold car of Chris Cumming in his sights, but there's the GT. And it looks as though the Corvette and the Porsche are very, very closely back. Look, there's another pair having a battle behind them for 3rd place.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic racing going on there. And Chris Dyson was trying to work his way through the pack as well, because he was caught up behind a whole bunch of traffic at the restart between himself and the race leader, Lucas Luhr.
4 different manufacturers in the top 4 of GT. This is what we love about GT racing. And we're told from race control that the penalties that we were expecting will arrive, at least for some of the cars. And that was for overtaking Jeremy under that yellow flag when we went to full course caution. Here comes Chris Dyson battling through this GT battle. We'll run them down for you in just a moment, but we've got action at the moment at the head of the GT field in the right-hand side of the screen. Almost, was he ahead for a moment there?
It looked like it. The Porsche had great straight line speed coming up the hill there. Patrick Long had a huge run on Tony Garcia, but Garcia had the inside line going into turn 8 and was able to maintain that advantage. But the Porsche there, the Flying Lizard Porsche in 2nd place. Patrick Long, he will hand over that car later to Jörg Bergmeister. That is the car that won the most recent round 2 weeks ago at Lime Rock Park.
Penalties coming then for Conquest Endurance, the 37 car, and for the number 9 as well, the RSR Racing, and that was for overtaking in the run-up to that full course caution under yellow flags. It's a big no-no. You've got to respect that, because they could be corner workers on the track, and there is the visual proof of that penalty being served by that number 37 car. The 20 car should be going in for his speeding stop-go as well in a few moments' time. In fact, there, just over the top of the wall, is that 20 car. My goodness me, everybody's doing exactly what we're telling them to do this weekend.
Well, yeah, and we heard several drivers at the top of the show saying you cannot make mistakes here.
Mistake-free.
And we saw Conquest Endurance. We heard Martin Plowman say, you know, they've shot themselves in the foot several times already this season. Last time out at Lime Rock Park 2 weeks ago, they had the fastest car in the field, but 2 penalties effectively cost them the race.
This is Chris Cumming. That car right ahead of him on the right-hand side, not the prototype that's just gone by in the white car. The Peter Lesafra driven Porsche, there it is, just turning into turn number 8. That's Peter Lesafra, he is leading GTC. We're on board with almost the driver's eye view from the JDX Porsche in second position. And my goodness me, couldn't the JDX guys do with a bit of luck this season as well?
Yeah, they've had no luck on their side at all, but they've got some new sponsorships over the last couple of weeks from Hertz. Good to see them on board this program, and it's a great little team here. And Chris Cumming and Michael Valiente, who was a star in the Open Wheel ranks several years ago, he's been driving sports cars as well now for several years, but really enjoying himself here driving this GTC Porsche in the American Le Mans Series.
And that
behind my Hansen around the outside there.
Look at how the traffic has played its part there, and Peter Lesafra doing exactly the right thing, driving his line, being decisive, not weaving about on the track. And although I'm sure that the GT Porsche and the 37 car going through of Hennemeyer Hansen might feel a little aggrieved they were held up, they were left in no doubt at all about what that Green Hornet car was going to do. That is the battle for the lead in GTC, and that's Hertz sponsorship on the IMSA GT3 Cup challenged by Yokohama support series as well, with a couple of hundred Porsche Panameras now available to rent from Hertz. Not one that I get, I say, when I go to the gold counter. And that's the change for the lead. The gold car with the Hertz sponsorship is in the point position for GTC, and that was a great piece, a classic piece of overtaking here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Got the drag out of 5, made it count at 8.
Chris Cumming from the Vancouver area in British Columbia, so the other side of Canada, but he's got
really nice, very patient, very smart.
Yeah, it was Jeremy Dale there, the team owner for JDX Racing, well, the Team Kona owner, telling Chris Cumming he did a super job there. Chris, he's got a lot of experience. He's driven here in Star Mazda cars. He's driven here in the GT3 Challenge as well. So he's got quite a bit of experience on this racetrack. His co-driver, Michael Valiente, a lot more experience overall, but the only time that Michael Valiente has been here to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park before was 13 years ago. It was his very first ever race in a Formula V car. Boy, that's a bit different to driving a Porsche around here.
Half an hour is in the history books as far as the 5th round of the American Le Mans Series for 2012. That is already the gap between first and second in the GTC category. Lucas Lowe still leads the motor race out front. Tactics still to play a part, and in GT, here's the battle for 3rd. If you want to look for a battle, go to the street car class. Well, these cars based on the cars that we would like to drive if we had the wherewithal. And on board with Guy Cosmo, Extreme Speed Motorsports Ferrari 458, and ahead of him in 3rd position in the GT category is Dirk Muller in the BMW.
And what a super job Guy Cosmo and his co-driver Ed Brown did a couple of weeks ago.
Get on it, buddy, get on it.
That is a stop-and-go penalty for the RSR Racing PC car, prototype challenge car of Tommy Dreesen.
And that was for the overtake under yellow we spoke about earlier, just in case you're not taking notes.
Briefly on that 02 car again, Guy Cosmo, we were on board with him just a moment ago. He and Ed Brown, they were running in 4th place and challenging for a podium 2 weeks ago, and then they were punted off by a PC car just a few minutes from the end of the race.
Yeah, and Guy Cosmo says no more Mr. Nice Guy Cosmo as far as he's concerned, and he's going to be as aggressive as he needs to be to make up places this weekend. How will that affect what goes on in the mind of Dirk Muller? He said that on our TV coverage of qualifying, and if you weren't watching yesterday on ESPN3, why not, quite frankly? And I just wonder how Dirk Muller will be reacting when he sees that black and green Ferrari 458 hoving into sight behind him in his mirrors. Ahead of these two, there is Dirk Muller looking forward from the Dunlop shod BMW M3, and just if you have good eyes, you might just be able to see 2nd place in the distance there, and that's the 45 Flying Lizard. There it is, the Porsche in the middle of that pack with the yellow shape band, and that's Pat Long, young American. Well, actually not that young now, but he's one of the real stars of American road racing, came across to Europe and learned his craft over there on the racetracks of Europe. And at the moment sitting in second position. The Lizards have not had a banner season up until they came back from Le Mans. And then things rather turned around for them.
Yeah, it's going to be 31 next week, actually, Patrick Long.
Oh, well, he is that young, then, okay.
Yeah, well, true. Yeah, right, true. But he's been around a long time, hasn't he? But interesting, wasn't it? We saw after the restart, he was challenging the Corvette for the lead in GT, and you can see the gap now. It's pulled out to, what, maybe 50 yards or so. So still not a huge gap that the Corvette has in its favour, but certainly a bit more than it was a few laps ago.
Now, interestingly, ahead of that, the cars you're looking at there, the 06 and the 055, the white and black prototypes, they are battling for position, but they're not in the same class. You hear us talking all the time about 5 different categories of racing on the circuit at the same time, and you might think, well, Alex Popov in the white car, why is he racing the 055 of Scott Tucker? Because they're not really in the same race. But you know what? They're racing drivers, and they have pride. And there's been a bit of tactics there on the 06 to get them ahead and up to the front of the field. And now Scott Tucker is through. He gets the opportunity to put some gap between himself and any of the other P2 cars behind him.
Yeah, David Heinemeier Hansen, who they're both of the P2 cars. This car, which are on board right now, the 055 car, Scott Tucker in the HBD chassis, he made a pit stop under that caution, as did the Conquest endurance car.
Oh, that's a touch! Was there a little touch there between the Flying Lizard 44 and Bill Swiegler in the 23? It's Andy Lally drafted into the Lizards this weekend. He's made up a position there and got into 9th in GT, and that was very close indeed. If it wasn't the touch, it was a smidgen away.
So it looked like it. That was a big moment there for both of
those. He turned in and hit my right rear from the outside.
And there is the answer, Jeremy.
See a bit of damage on the
I've advised race control.
And the corner. And Andy Lally, he was one of the guys that did make a pit stop during that caution period. That is why he was behind the Lotus.
I actually think that anybody who made that early pit stop, that's not the worst thing you could do, particularly for the prototypes, because you might be able to get through to the end of the race with just one more stop. Might, if you are clever, and that's not going to play out for a couple of hours yet, but that's the joy of sports car racing and endurance racing. You have to kind of keep things in the back of your mind, because these guys are making bets that won't necessarily be paid out until closer till the end of the race. It's strategy. Chess at 200 miles an hour, somebody famously called endurance racing, and those early moves may well be paying off later on as the big gap opens up between Andy Lally, who surely must be one of the most versatile drivers in any form of motor racing at the moment. If it's got wheels and an engine and they keep score, Andy will race it.
Yeah, he will. He's a very accomplished driver. It's just his second start in the American Le Mans Series this season.
And as much as Andy Lally has driven and he has so much Porsche experience, he told me that it has been a bit difficult to get comfortable inside that 44 Flying Lizards Porsche. He drives a Porsche in another series. He said those cars are so different. When he made the switch, he said the setup and everything you can expect out of this car is so different. It was taking him a few more laps than he had anticipated getting into this car, but he said, hey, working with these Flying Lizards group is awesome. It's a great group of people.
Kelly Stavitz down in the pit lane, 36 minutes in the history books here. And of course, we've had the usual array of support races this weekend, and we'll leave with some of that action. Cooper Tires Prototype Lights supporting the American Le Mans Series here in Canada, and with Tristan Nunez starting from the back, the number 10 of Mikhail Goldberg got the lead early on. Problems further back down the field for the 15 of Alan Vilsig. Scott Tucker leading light 2 category, but he had contact too, trying to go up the inside of the 22 of Robert Sabato. That caused a problem for the right rear of the Sabato machine, and problems with the steward for Scott Tucker. So Michael Goldberg comes through to win it in the number 10, and Robert Sabato also getting a great result this weekend. Here's the results from the 2 events, and we'll be back with more from Canada in just a few moments' time.
Hey, if you're like me, you hate when your gas-powered equipment won't start. It turns out the ethanol in street gas was causing deposits and dissolving my fuel lines. But then I tried SCF small engine fuels. For 2 cycles, SCF is pre-mixed with oil. So you just pour it in and you're done. There's no ethanol in SEF, so you get quick starts even after long-term storage.
Try SEF. It's the perfect fuel for gas-powered tools.
Everything we ever thought up. Everything we fight for. Everything we dream of. Everything we are. The new 911. Porsche identity.
Jim Merrow does not deserve your praise. He's a typical Corvette engineer who happened to take a stock Chevrolet Corvette ZR1 to the Nürburgring and shook the automotive world with a lap of under 7 minutes and 20 seconds. He was only doing his job. Get back to work, Jim. See the full lap at Chevy.com/ZR1.
When it comes to fun family getaways, it's got to be Holiday Inn Club Vacations. Room to be yourself.
Sports car race fans, Petit Le Mans is coming to Road Atlanta October 17th through the 20th. See Porsche, Ferrari, BMW, Corvette, Viper, and more battle on the track at 200 miles per hour. Don't miss night practice, the vendor village, the kid zone, the driver autograph sessions, and the open paddock. Kids under 12 get in free. Petit Le Mans, October 17th through the 20th. Get your tickets now at roadatlanta.com.
Well, that is the sad sight of the aftermath of an accident that has caused another full course caution, our second of the afternoon here in round 5 of the American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron. And that, I think, is Peter Lasafra, who is looking a little the worse for wear. Looks like he's probably just winded, Jeremy, but there's been multiple car accident. Peter was in the 34, the first of the cars that you see here. And here comes the 06 of Alex Papau. Now he's leading his class. Oh, and gets right into the back, right-hand side. And the real unwitting I can't believe 3 times that car gets hit, the 52 car. And that is none of that was his fault at all. Absolutely innocent bystander, the yellow and blue car on the left-hand side of that shot.
Yeah, I think that was a battle. I don't know whether the 52 car was battling for position there or not, to be perfectly honest, but he was certainly on the outside line there, trying to gain the advantage from Alex Popov, who was committed to running down the right-hand side of that Porsche. But yeah, very unfortunate incident heading up toward turn 4.
And that happened to Carl Marcelli a couple of years ago here when he got picked up in someone else's accident, exactly that part of the circuit. It was Ken Dobson, by the way, in the 52 that was caught up, and there was effectively the innocent party in the PR1 Matheson Motorsports car, which has Marino Franchitti slated to drive that car. He may not get a drive this weekend, I'm afraid, with that car in the barrier. And poor Marino. Well, both cars are looking. That 34 car's taking a lot of damage on the front end, and the good news is that Peter Lasafra is up and about, which will be some sucker at least to Damien Faulkner down in the pit lane, his teammate.
I'm actually just waiting to get a word in here with Damien, so I'm going to actually climb the pit box and come to him. And Damien, you said that you saw, at least in real time, what happened. What did you see?
Well, it just looked like, it looked like Peter was holding a steady line, and there was 2 prototypes, one on either side, and one of them tried to drive through him. That's what I could see.
Have you got word from Peter?
No, but we can see that he's okay. He's on the bank. That's the most important thing at the end of the day. So he looks to be okay. He's moving around, but those are the risks. And but Peter, I mean, it's very disappointing for Peter. It's very disappointing for us all. But I think he was an innocent victim here.
Yeah, we start from pole, but their day is done here at Green Hornet. Sorry, thank you very much, Damien.
Thank you.
And hadn't we just seen a couple of laps before, and hadn't we just made the comment that Peter Lasafra was doing exactly the same thing, holding his line and letting the other guys go around? He was being decisive, he wasn't waving around there, and he's still clearly feeling the effect of a very heavy contact with the tyres.
Yeah, and again, major championship implications. Peter Lasafra driving this season, of course, with Damien Faulkner. They were lying second in the points table in GTC coming into this event, just 5 points behind Cooper McNeil, who this weekend is back driving that number 22 car. We're going through the screen right now there, the white and black car for Alex Job Racing.
Yeah.
Also, talk about the championship implications in GT. The number 4 Corvette, we saw it stop on track with Tommy Miller. It was dragged back to the pits. They thought it was maybe a transmission problem. Turns out they think it's now the gearbox, and under American Le Mans Series rules, you're allowed to change a lot of components on the car during a race weekend or the race, but not the gearbox itself. So the team is going to have to repair that gearbox, so whatever was broken.
So the internals are fair game, but the gearbox casing itself has to remain the one that you start the race.
That's absolutely right.
Okay, so those old quick fit gearboxes of years gone by aren't allowed anymore.
So that'll likely be more than a 10-minute stop that we heard Doug Feehan talking about earlier on.
Now, there is our leader, the number 6, and the pass around has started. This allows any car that is in front of its class leader back around the Porsche Panamera safety car. That means they are not disadvantaged by what was clearly needed, which was an intervention to allow the safety workers to get down to that multiple car accident. They'll be allowed to go back around, join at the back of the queue before the pits become open.
That's right. In each respective class, any car that was ahead of the class leader but behind the safety car, the Porsche Panamera we're looking at right now, is able to pull on around and rejoin the back of the pack. And only when that situation has been resolved will the pits be opened for service. Anybody who wants to come onto pit lane, I think we're going to see quite a few people onto pit lane very soon.
I've got to say, you know, one man's meat, another man's poison, cloud, lining, silver, rearrange. This is a good time to have a yellow flag for a pit stop, and there's going to be people now working out the implications of this. It's closed up things at the front of the grid, of course, the front of the field, because Chris Dyson is now within sight of Lucas Luhr, the leader. And there's decisions to be made. If you're Dyson, do you stay out and take the track position and wait for another safety car, or do you take the free, in inverted commas, service that you'll be given and do what the leader does?
You're exactly right. That is a decision that has to be made, and I'd be fairly sure for Dyson Racing they will bring Chris Dyson into the pits. And the major reason for that is he's now been able, as you said, to close up almost onto the tail of Lucas Luhr, having had he's actually absolutely on the tail of Lucas Luhr. There's a couple of cars, there's one car in between them.
Which is his teammate, ironically.
Yeah. So he's, he had a deficit of about 20 seconds, I think it was, or more than that, before we had this safety car intervention. But what's interesting now is that the Dyson car, having made a pit stop earlier on, it will need only kind of half as much fuel as will the Muscle Milk car that did not
we're going to stop
earlier on. So
20 car is going to stay out to get a wave by.
Yeah. So the 20
so you'll have an open pit bomb. So make sure to stop on the board.
Now that's very, very interesting, and thanks to our audio guys for getting that to us and for Racing Radios. Tony Burgess is the first car off the lead lap. He won't come into the pit lane, and he will come around and get that lap back effectively, and he's not been given that back. That's a tactical advantage that they're choosing to do. That will put the 16 right on the tail of the leader, and as you say, the 6 car will probably take a little bit longer. Now, we're being told that the 6 car is going to stay out, and we'll discuss that in a moment. Just for those of you who perhaps are going to switch over and watch ESPN2, a little change to the schedules on ESPN2, and Johnny O'Connell and Brian Till will be coming on 5 minutes earlier, so that's around about 5 minutes from now than was originally advertised. So, Jeremy, tactically then, the 6 is going to stay out.
No, I can't imagine that's the case. It's due for a pit stop fairly soon in any case, so I would be very surprised. Well,
so
I'm wrong, I guess. I didn't see it there, so maybe it did stay out. That's surprising.
And look at how the Corvette is on an angle ahead of the 16 car. This is very, very interesting indeed. And look at the two. Now that's second and third in GT as well behind them. And the Ferrari gets out very quickly indeed. Look at that. There's a long stop for the BMW, Jeremy.
Yeah, because that is the BMW that's
the 56 car that came in third position, but he's lost positions in the pit.
No, the reason that was a longer stop because they did not stop under the previous caution, so that car had not been in the pits before. Now the 44 Porsche had been in during that first round of pit stops, which was when Andy Lally took over from Seth Nyman. I'm so surprised number 6 car didn't come in.
Well, maybe they feel they can do it on just one more stop.
Well, I guess they want to keep the number 20 car 1 lap down also, but
yes, that's messed up, and that's a good point, Jeremy, because that strategy we were talking about, that's been messed up by the leader not coming in. They won't now get the wave. So there is the 02 Extreme Speed Motorsports Ferrari 458. Just under 2 hours still to run here. Jeremy Shaw and I'm John Hindorf in the ESPN free booth here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for round 5 of the American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron. There goes the number 4 Corvette rejoining. Tommy Milner, I think, still aboard that car. So that's the full car back out with fixed gearbox, having dropped, what, 13, 14 laps?
Yeah, that is quick work by those guys to get that car back out so soon. I guess we've had a fair amount of running under the caution period for the overall race leader, car number 6, the Muscle Milk HPD car, but I'm still surprised they didn't take the opportunity to come onto pit lane.
Just a quick word about the number 4 Corvette. Back in the race, you might think if you're 20 laps down on the class leader, what's the point of coming out? But you said it, championship implications, and they've still got the opportunity to get to 70% of the distance. And why is that important? Well, that's the level that is set to score points and be classified. Now, they may not get a lot of points, Jeremy, but we've seen this category, the whole championship over 10 rounds, come down to the last round of Petit Le Mans in October and be won by a point or 2.
Yeah, absolutely right. So every point you can get is absolutely critical. So, as you say, you have to complete at least 70% of the distance to be eligible for points. But great work there by the Corvette team to get this car back out into the fray so quickly. And as you say, they've only lost no, they've lost more than that. They've lost 20 laps, haven't they?
Yeah,
but still, that's going to be fine in terms of the 70% rule. So good work by those guys. And it's unusual for them to be having mechanical problems these days. Those cars are very, very well sorted. And at least now he will try and stay out of trouble. He's in the 11th place of the car right now. Only the top 10 will score points, so he will need some more attrition before he will earn any championship points.
And the leader in that GT category we're on board with at the moment, a very relaxed looking Guy Cosmo, who sits in 10th position overall in the 02 ESM Ferrari. Paddle shift this year, pioneered in fact by this team. They were the first of the ALMS teams to, the first of the Ferrari teams to get the paddle shift. And you can just see on the right hand side of that steering wheel the 2 little aluminium paddles. Guy just going backwards and forwards. People think that is warming up the tyres, but it's more actually cleaning up the tyres rather than warming them up.
Keeping the brakes warm as well. And keeping the brakes warm here is a problem at this racetrack, because you really only use the brakes hard once, and that's into this corner here, Moss corner, turns 5 and 5A. The other corners around this racetrack, you sort of breathe the brakes a couple of times, but that is the only hard braking point on this racetrack.
So the Porsche Panamera safety car continues to lead the field. Lucas Löhr is our leader and has not stopped and stays out there.
And again, it's all about strategy here. I was surprised this car didn't come in, but they're looking toward the end of the race now. If they can stay out, they're going to think they're going to have to make 2 stops in any case. And if they're at the front of the pack, they're going to be able to romp away from the field because they have a clear advantage, particularly now with the Dyson car being kind of stuck back in the pack a bit after making a pit stop. So he's going to be able to pull away rapidly at the front of the field. He can do another 10 or 15 laps, probably pull out 20 seconds or so, and by doing that he'll probably be able to stay on the lead lap by the time he comes back out again, having made that pit stop. So that, I'm sure, is why Brandon Fry elected not to bring that number 6 car onto the pit lane.
So second place is that 055 car in frame now, the black level 5 machine with Scott Tucker in that distinctive black carbon fibre racing helmet.
And then we've got 2 GTC cars behind it. The Hertz car is leading the class, Chris Cumming. Behind him, Cooper McNeil in the WeatherTech.
That's first and second then,
That's first and second in GTC. And right behind them is number 37 car, the orange and silver car. That's David Heinemeier Hansen for the Conquest Endurance team. That was the car that Martin Plowman put on the pole position, and we saw they had a miscue earlier on when the first caution came out. We heard the penalty assessed on that number 37 car for overtaking the under the yellow flags, so he had to make an extra stop. As you can see now, he's still he's now within 3 cars of Scott Tucker in the lead for P2, so that battle very much rejoined right now. Here's David Heinemeier Hansen. He's done a super job. He only started racing in 2009, so very little experience relatively, but he's really learned very quickly. He's a very analytical guy. He's in his real life, he's a computer programmer, effectively.
His real life.
Yeah, and he's a very good one at that. He's developed the 37 Signals company and various computer programs and softwares. And he's made himself some money, and he's always had a passion for racing. He's from Denmark originally, and he saw Tom Christensen, the countryman, winning Le Mans for the first time back in 97, was it, whatever it was, and he was inspired by that. He's always been interested. His goal is to race in the Le Mans series, and here he is right now. He's raced GT4 cars for a year or two, did some GT3 last year, and over the winter he did a huge amount of testing in a sports car, open-top sports car, radical V8-powered sports car, mainly in Spain. And he's got this opportunity now with Eric Bachelar's Conquest Endurance team. And I tell you what, he impressed Eric Bachelard right from the moment he got into this car. He's really done a nice job.
The Conquest team have impressed me because
it's a good team.
I mean, I know Eric's got a lot of experience, but it's a new form of racing for them, and they've come into it and hit the ground running. And it's, you think, well, a race car's a race car. And yes, that's true, and most of the same sort of rules apply in terms of how you set it up. But getting to know a new series is not something that just happens in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, it certainly isn't. The Conquest team has been racing primarily in the open wheel ranks for the last 10 years or so, since Eric hung up his own helmet as a driver, a very accomplished driver in his own right. He won the Indy Lights Championship. He raced in the Indy cars as well. But it's a very small team now. It's certainly downsized. They've got this opportunity to run in the sports cars. That was the GTC leaders making a pit stop.
That's the GTC leaders making a pit stop, and there they are. The 11 car, the JDX, and the 22 WeatherTech Alex Job car deciding to come in. Now, they do have a mandatory 4-tyre change of 4 Yokohama tyres within the race, but that is just a splash of fuel. Come on, get it started, get out. You can almost feel them willing. And it is out, and he has kept. Well, that's a change. That's a change of the lead, and that's stop! Oh, nearly blew the red flag, and well done to the official at the end of pit lane. Didn't just stand there and hung the red flag out, really waved it. I love the way the guys from the American Le Mans series officiate. A lot of people would have just stood there with the red flag and let the guy blow through, and then he would have got a penalty. No, I'm waving it so you can see it. Come on, I'm giving you every chance. But that's a change of lead in GTC in the pit lane. I think it's going to. Yeah, well, yeah. I think maybe on the JDC car they might have been changing tyres as well. There is a JDC car leaving the pit lane. Yes, it was a much longer stop, but because it's under the safety car, it's really not going to cost them much in the overall picture. That's a good point.
So I wonder whether they actually took on tyres there in that number 11 car.
Yeah, that is a very good point, and he's lost the lead, but he won't have lost any real estate on the track.
No, and if he's got fresh tyres as well, that could be critical. I don't know whether he did or he didn't, because the Yokohama tyres are certainly very durable, but this track is about the most difficult track for tyre wear on the entire American Le Mans Series schedule.
And there you can see it's already caught up the back of the safety car train. You're not missing any action at the front of the field or anywhere else. We're under our second full course caution. The cars have been recovered, and there are the two GTC runners we were talking about. The 22 WeatherTech Alex Job racing car now leading from the JDX Porsche in second place. The cars and the drivers have been attended to, and at the moment it is the safety barrier that is being looked at on the run up to from the bottom of turn 2 up to turn 3 and 4. And that's what's taking the time at the moment. I did notice one of the course vehicles, the big box vans that have all of the banded tyres in the back, it was already down there waiting for the cars to be removed. And as I finish the sentence, the work is finished and we go green to restart with 1 hour and 46 minutes to go. So that's almost exactly an hour of the 2 hour 45 being completed, and there's going to be a bit of evaluating of what's going on in the field, a bit of a mix-up. People stop, people hasn't stopped, and that's a very, very bold manoeuvre down the inside by David Hennemeyer Hansen, and that is the pass for the lead in P2.
Yes, it is, and as we were saying, you know, David Hennemeyer Hansen, what a talent he is. Scott Tucker in that black car, the 055 car, he had the race of his life a couple of weeks ago at Lime Rock Park. He drove the final couple of stints in that car after taking over from Christophe Bouchou. The original plan was to get Bouchou, the professional driver, back behind the wheel for the final portion of the race, but the way the caution period worked out 2 weeks ago, they kept Scott Tucker at the wheel of the car, and he did an absolutely super job to hold off the professional driver in the number 37 car, Martin Plowman, over the final 45 minutes of that race.
Prototype 2 category, very similar looking to the P1 cars. They're a little less power, a lot less cost. That's the main thing. They are cost capped, in fact, and it's an extremely cost-effective, I'm not going to say cheap, nothing in motorsport is cheap, it's an extremely cost-effective way to go prototype racing. Oh, and that the 25, that's a Dempsey car, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
That's at the final corner, right in front of
Henri Richard, who's running in 4th place in PT. That was the car that was on the podium a couple of weeks ago at Lime Rock Park.
And that looks to be damage to bodywork at least, and he'll be lucky if he's got away with just that. That is quite a quick part of the track. Actually, everywhere's quite a quick part of the track here. What am I saying? But if he's got away without any suspension damage there in the 25, he was running 4th in the category. In fact, he was running a little bit higher than that, and he's just dropped down to 4th even with that incident, as the 06 car is in the pit lane taking a penalty for avoidable contact. Stop plus 1 minute and 20, and that was for the crash that put Peter Lesafra and indeed Ken Dobson into the wall earlier on.
And that was the same car that was involved in an incident 2 weeks ago at Lime Rock Park with the 02 car of Guy Cosmo right toward the end of the race. We talked about that earlier on. Guy Cosmo had been driving the Ferrari. It was Tom Kimber-Smith at that time was driving the 06 car. Tom's not driving this weekend, but there was certainly, you know, some prior, let's say, on that car, but that is not, this penalty isn't because of the incident 2 weeks ago, but clearly I think Alex Popov has been determined to be the cause of that big crash we had at turn 3.
Now there is a first look at the incident we saw the back end of just a moment ago. And actually, do you know what? He has been lucky. Look forward. It was just a bit of over-anxious right foot on the part of Henri Richard, and it has deranged the bodywork, but it looked like all 4 wheels were pointing in the right direction there, and with a bit of judicious work with gaffer tape and tie wraps, that might not be too much work for the guys down there at Dempsey Racing. As Lucas Slur continues his imperious progress at the front of the field, he's already pulled out 9.5 seconds on the second place car, which happens to be the leader in P2, David Hennemeyer Hansen, that we saw pull off that audacious move just a lap or two ago. Scott Tucker in the 055 is in 3rd place. 5 classes of car racing at the same time here in the American Le Mans Series. Let's check in with some of the other battles on the racetrack. And in GT, we've got 4 cars within just a couple of seconds. It's Guy Cosmo who is leading that category.
again, as he did 2 weeks ago at Lime Rock in the early stages, and again he was running strongly towards the end.
Well, there is David Ennemeyer Hansen.
Sorry, John.
Sorry.
That Extreme Speed Motorsports team with that Ferrari, they come on very strong. They haven't won a race yet, but I tell you what, they've been knocking on the door very regularly. There is Guy Cosmo.
That car is looking extremely well sorted around what is, and always has been, an extremely bumpy circuit here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And that's no criticism, that's part of the charm, as far as I'm concerned, of this circuit. The winters up here are very hard indeed. Interesting that one of the, well, I'll tell you about that in just a moment. One of the teams thought they could do faster times, but they hadn't factored in a slightly harder winter last year than I think there was. Now, this was, what, a couple of weeks ago, just what you were talking about.
Indeed, that was the exit stage left. You can see the PC car rejoining the track after a trip onto the grass, and the PC car tried to dive down the inside of Guy Cosmo, going down that diving turn, the right-hander onto the start-finish straight, and that was a big crash for Guy Cosmo.
Just less than a week ago, this team weren't sure if they were going to be able to get that car back together and out here to race this weekend. The damage was so severe, everything rearward of the engine had to be removed, inspected, repaired, and replaced as needed. It took over 400 man-hours, and get this, over $200,000 to get that Ferrari back out on the racetrack.
I have one word for you, ouch. And that wasn't rehearsed.
No, it wasn't.
Here we are at
hurts.
Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, 2.5 miles, 10 corners, and, well, 2.5 miles of possibly some of the most torturous and treacherous and challenging of any around the
Tire Motorsport Park.
Circuit.
This is my home track. Just follow me on a lap. Flat out, getting up to 150 miles an hour here as we approach turn 2. As you can see, it is completely blind. One of the most challenging corners on this racetrack. Us and the prototypes, we could be overtaking GT cars here. It is so significant that you get the turn in for turn 2 correct. Here we are in turn 3, the most difficult corner for me personally. Two types of surface, concrete and asphalt. Very difficult to get a car working properly through here. It is so bumpy. This corner rewards patience. I'm standing here at the apex of turn 3. You got to be right next to this curbing. This is where you want to be back to full power. If you're back to power too early, you're off the road on the exit. So as you can see at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, it is go, go, go. There is no room for error on this racetrack. We are flying at 160 miles an hour into turn 8, personally my favorite corner on the racetrack. In a prototype, it is nearly flat out. It's a small lift just before you turn in, and then you're back to power. After turn 8, it's a quick turn 9, turn 10, cross the stripe and do it again.
Carl Marcelli on home ground this weekend. There is your leader of P1 and the race overall. It's Lucas Lowe, and he is really, really pressing home the advantage on the Pickett Muscle Milk Racing HPD Honda.
But at the same time, I don't think he's running that car as fast as he could go. I think he's just trying to stretch his fuel load as long as he can before he makes his first pit stop of the day for this Muscle Milk team.
He looks very, very comfortable indeed. And I always like to look not just at the body language of the car, but the driver within the cockpit. In open cockpit cars, you can see that much easier, Jeremy, clearly. And it's not that easy to pass even the GTC cars here, because they're pretty slippery in a straight line. But you can look at Lucas at the moment. He looks relaxed in the cockpit. He's not moving around too much. He doesn't look like he's having to hustle and throw the car. And there he is, just making another pass on the, it looks like the Lotus. He's putting another lap down from on board the now second place GTC car, the JDX Porsche of Michael Valiente. He's lost a bit of time, actually.
Well, they changed drivers at that point. We saw the WeatherTech car was just a splash of fuel, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he was right behind him when they went green, and now he's 47 seconds behind. And we thought that the 11 car had taken tyres.
Got a point there.
Because he what that was.
Well, we didn't know whether it changed tyres. It changed driver. So it would have taken Michael, a couple of laps to get up to speed. But yeah, you're right. That's.
all of a sudden,
deficit.
Yeah, he's dropped away a little bit, and in fact, he's being caught by Spencer Pumpelly.
Yeah, and I think that car must have made a pit stop fairly soon, because I'm pretty sure when we went back to green, that number 66 car for TRG was still being driven by Emilio de Guida, the Venezuelan driver who started the race. So I think they have made a pit stop recently. We didn't see it, and I didn't notice it on the scoring. But that car is now back into 3rd place in the class. I think he must have made it last time around. Looking at his lap time on this lap, 1:36.2 for Spencer Pumpelly. The other guys in that class range, 1:25, so almost 10 seconds off. I fancy that was his out lap. I think that the number 66 car made its pit stop just a lap or so ago. So there is the JDC car number 11, Michael Valianti. He's running in 2nd place at the moment, and he's a long way behind.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know why.
It's interesting because his last lap time wasn't a problem. So either he got caught up when we went back to green. There is the battle for the P2. Thank you very much for the pickup, guys. And that is closed back in again. Scott Tucker has got his head down, and I've got to say,
he's stayed with him since the pass, John.
Yeah, he's done really. He lost about 1.5 seconds, almost 2 seconds, and he's just gradually just nibbled back at that. And I've got to say, Scott Tucker has really begun to come of age in terms of his driving talent. He's not one of the younger drivers here. He is a businessman. This is not his chosen work. Just this, I was going to say it's a hobby, but it's a very expensive hobby. But you know what I mean. He's not a professional racing driver, and yet his driving has really come on.
Yeah.
Noticeably, even this season.
Well, very much. He's 50 years old now. But as you say, you know, businessman, primarily a racing driver second, but he certainly takes his racing extremely seriously. How seriously? Well, he had 2 cars here to use through practice and qualifying for himself and Christophe Bouchou. They elected only to run one of them in the race, but that meant more track time for both drivers, and particularly for Scott Tucker. Not only that, though, he's also been running a Porsche in the GT3 Challenge races by Yokohama, and a car in the Coupetar's IMSA prototype lights as well. So he's done 5 races this weekend as Scott Tucker. This guy, I tell you, he does more racing miles, I probably reckon, than anybody else in the world right now.
Yeah, he is the guy who is just, if there's a car out there that he can race, he'll have one and race it.
But he is taking advantage of it, so you've got to give him credit for that.
Yes.
That drive 2 weeks ago was really very, very good.
It was outstanding. Outstanding. He could easily have been pressured into a mistake a couple of weeks ago at Lime Rock. He wasn't, and he held on to take the victory, and now he's pressing for the lead of the class. Look at the orange and grey car, silver grey car ahead of him as they go under the Mobile One Bridge down the Andretti Straight at the far side of the circuit from us here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And it's nip and tuck, isn't it? It's a 10th one lap to the leader, a 10th the next lap to Scott Tucker in 2nd place. And the leader now, David Hennemeyer Hansen, has got traffic to get by. Very bumpy as Hennemeyer Hansen goes down the inside of the 23 of Townsend Bell now in the Alex Job Racing Lotus Evora. And you can see Scott Tucker, you can almost see him leaning forward there. He knows he's gaining on the leader. He's looking around, he's getting excited, and he's got to pick his spot carefully here.
He has. It is a difficult place to make a passing manoeuvre here because the corners are so fast. You're only braking, like I said, really hard down at turn 5. But it's a super race between these two completely different engine chassis combinations as well. But the turbocharged engine in the black car, we're on board here right now, looking down the inside here.
This was a lap or 2 ago. He gets alongside. Oh, and there's contact there, heavy contact, continued contact, more contact again. And I was going to say look left because they're still there. You'll get a little bit of sideways aero action there at that point. Oh, fantastic work on the camera, guys. Golf clap from in the booth here. And who's going to be the last of the late breakers? Oh, he got caught up. Tucker got caught up with the TRG Porsche ahead of him. Otherwise, he had position there. He just couldn't pull across to the left any further. That's magic stuff, guys.
Great stuff. And the black car there, the Scott Tucker, that's a turbocharged 2.8-litre Honda engine in that car. The HPD chassis, the Conquest car, that is a Nissan-powered Morgan chassis.
And they've won 4 races in a row. Christophe Bouchou has played an integral part in coaching Scott Tucker to the driver he is today. We've seen some great moves out there. Does that come from you?
Well, I don't know. I think Scott doing very well. Since already Lime Rock, it's a good fight between Conquest and Hayes, and it's really clean. Of course, it's not easy on that kind of track to overtake, but right now it's a good fight. So we have to see what will happen in the next few hours.
And Christophe will be getting into that 0.55 later on. Thank you, Christophe.
Thank you very much.
And by the way, for those of you who are watching those pictures, no, we don't have a cameraman alongside Scott Tucker, but well done to the guys on the robo for getting that for us. Into the pits comes Lucas Lohr. This is your leader, and we've had 1 hour and 32.
This will be a full-service pit stop. There will be a driver change. Lucas Lohr handing duties over to his co-driver, Klaus Graf. Talking to this duo this weekend, they say this is one of the scariest tracks that they race at all year long, all over the world. There's a lot of concentration that has to go into it. You have to be on your marks at every single event. This duo does not use a driver assist to do their driver change. You see Lucas strapping Klaus into the car. They work together on and off of the racetrack. No other work can go on this car until the fuel complete. Fuel is now finished. They're going to take 4 new Michelin tires. They're going for their 3rd win in a row, but in their 3rd different car. So they don't have a lot of experience with this HPD-powered Honda, but they do know that they have a great car underneath them today. Limping as he gets out of the car. It was a great stint and a great stop for Muscle Milk.
That's got to be hard that he's limping like that, because you do use your right foot to brake as you heel and toe in race cars, and you've got to get some pressure on that. And an innocuous injury in the hauler when they were getting ready for their birthday celebrations over the weekend. Look in the back of the shot there, he's just tripped over a part of the awning.
Yeah, that was potentially very nasty there. He's been sort of shrugging it off, but you can see there he's not at all comfortable, and as he got out of the car just now, not comfortable either. It was his 33rd birthday yesterday for Lucas Lohr. Today is his 33rd birthday. Yesterday was Klaus Graf's 43rd birthday, so it's certainly a weekend of celebration so far for those two, and they want to cap it off now with a victory and extend their lead in the championship. But they've got a little bit of work to do now. Lucas Lohr has handed over that car to Klaus Graf, and Graf is now behind Chris Dyson on the racetrack and 4th place overall.
Yeah, and I misspoke actually. It was 1 hour and 13 gone, 1 hour and 30 still remaining.
Lucas, even standing here, you're still hobbling around. We've all twisted an ankle. We know that it hurts, but what effect does it have on you in a race car?
Well, luckily we are on the racetrack here where we don't have to brake so hard so often, but you know, towards the end I asked for full service because I felt that every time that you're just not comfortable, you know, slamming onto the brakes before turn 5, so it's almost like somebody teases you with a little needle or something if you're tapping on the brakes. But you know, our Muscle Milk HPD has been running great. We had a good pit stop. Klaus is in the car now. As I know him, he's on the charge now to extend our lead, and we're a little bit off sequence now with the pit stop, but should be fine for the rest of the race.
Great job pushing through it. Go get some ice.
Yeah, he's putting a brave face on that. So just under 1 hour and a half still to go. We're at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Our next race in a couple of weeks is at Mid-Ohio, and we have an exciting addition.
We began the Austin Hedger Foundation to help families deal with the side effects of pediatric cancer.
in the new iteration was sold for $300,000 for the Austin Hatcher Foundation, the official charity of the American Le Mans Series. The good news for snake fans is you're going to be bitten again in a couple of weeks' time at Mid-Ohio when the SRT is back.
When it comes to fun family getaways, it's got to be Holiday Inn Club Vacations. Room to be yourself.
First day of spring. Oh, my battery is perfect.
Yep, we've been on a battery tender for 6 years.
Well, I wish I could say the same.
What do you mean?
Old man forgot to plug me in.
Yeah, before I was on a battery tender, I flatlined. Ouch.
Well, at least this couldn't get any worse.
Don't let your batteries become a statistic. Connect a Deltran battery tender. Available at these fine retailers. If it's not a Deltran battery tender, it's just a pretender.
Duck. Duck. Goose.
Our technology builds some of the best tires in the world. Because when it comes to performance, we don't just play around.
Cheater, we said no 360s.
Who's up for some leapfrog?
Fifth round of the American Le Mans Series is the Grand Prix of Mosport from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. I'm John Hindhaugh. Jeremy Shaw is alongside me, and you join us live along with a huge and enthusiastic and knowledgeable crowd here trackside. The weather has been relatively kind to us. We had a little splash earlier on, but it's been dry since then. Now, in this week's Patron Rules of the Roads, we're going for a wild ride to understand what speed differential is all about.
With 5 different classes of cars in the American Le Mans Series, speed differentials are something that all the drivers need to be aware of. And who better to demonstrate that than myself being a fast guy and Brian Till being a slow guy?
Yeah, Johnny, you finally get to pass me on the racetrack.
I'll just be joining a list of 1,000 Brians. Right now, I'm driving a Porsche, representing the prototype, the fastest category of cars in the American Le Mans Series.
And I'm representing the GT class, the slower classes of cars in the series, here in my grocery getter.
Now, I can be going up to 30, 40 miles an hour faster than Brian, but I'm only looking forward.
And as usual, I've got to work harder than Johnny. I've got to look out for my line in front of me, my rearview mirror as well.
And as we come up to Brian, I see he can be unpredictable, taking part of the racetrack that, whoa, that I wanted to be at.
Hey man, I can't move to my line. I can't just disappear.
You know what? That happens in the American Le Mans Series. You've got 2 drivers fighting for the same piece of real estate, and that's often when the trouble begins at the American Le Mans Series.
Oh, quality stuff. The guys had no fun at all making that feature. That's the battle.
The drivers were enjoying it. I'm not so sure about the cameramen.
Yeah, I'm afraid that our cameramen were not very happy with that at all. There's the battle for the now the overall lead of the motor race.
It was a good illustration of what the speed differentials can be on this racetrack there. So it's tough from both perspectives, both the overtaking driver and the driver being overtaken, particularly as the Mario Andretti straightaway, which are on right now, isn't particularly straight.
Yes. Bill Auberlen getting out. Jörg Müller, there he is with that distinctive M design on the side of his belt helmets. And a new set of Dunlops going on to the 56 car.
We saw Bill Auberlen climb out of the 55. It's Jörg Müller now. They were actually running third when they came down pit road. This BMW Team RLL has a split strategy going between the 55 and the 56. So we saw the 55 take the first opportunity to come to pit road when the pits were open early in the race. The 56 came in the next time around. So they're doing a split strategy here at BMW Team RLL.
Very, very close to the blend line as they went out. And Paul Walters, our race director, saying he would be looking very closely at that on the way out and wouldn't be allowing people to head in across there as the Crown Plaza BMW gets back up to speed. Should say our race director comes and spends time with us as well as the drivers over the weekend, and we get to ask him all the questions about rules, regulation, and what Paul's going to be doing across the weekend, and it's much appreciated, Joe.
Yeah, it certainly is. He's a very methodical young man, is Paul Walter, and he puts a massive amount of time and effort into what he does. He takes it very, very seriously indeed, and as a result of that, he has great respect, I think, from everybody in the American Le Mans Series.
Yeah, Brian, he's driven more races in a BMW than anyone else in the world. But Bill, you guys are on a split strategy here between 55 and 56. Do you think you guys made the right call?
Yeah, for sure we made the right call, but we just, the tires started going away from us, and eventually I just was struggling to stay there. We had to redirect again and just hope for the best. I got a puncture at the end, so it was losing air, and I couldn't keep going because we were going to have a tire explode. But what can you do? Man, I need some luck. Holy cow, it's killing me.
Thanks, Bill.
One of the good guys. Now
yes.
This is important. The PC leader, and a great job was being done by the driver on the way in.
Absolutely right. Matt Downs, in his very first start, he hands that car over in the lead. Let's go down to the pit lane for GT pit stops.
Perfectly routine pit stop for the 02 Ferrari Tequila Patron car. Guy Cosmo got out, handing duties over to his co-driver, Ed Brown. And I was talking to Ed on the grid, and he said, you know, I really have an extra challenge than what these pro guys have, because he doesn't make his living racing cars. He's the CEO of Tequila Patron, so he does have to spend some time doing emails and working throughout the race weekends, and that really detracts him from the racing duties. But he says once that helmet's on and he's behind the wheel of his Ferrari, that's all he worries about. It's just getting to the next corner, and that was a tremendous pit stop from this team.
Back to the head of the field, Jeremy, and we've got action here on Sunday afternoon.
This is a battle not only for the lead in P2, but also the overall lead as well. You can see Scott Tucker, whoa, a big lock up there. You don't normally brake that hard for turn 3, but David Heinemeier Hansen there got on the brakes and then really locked up those tyres. We talked about it earlier, this track is very hard on tyres, and I think Heinemeier Hansen will be ready for a pit stop fairly soon in any case, and I fancy those Dunlop tyres again toward the end of their really useful life. But let's talk about just again about that 02 car. Ed Brown taking over the wheel from Guy Cosmo after an excellent first stint. And that number 8 car too, we saw a flash of that making a pit stop. Kyle Marcelli taking over from Matt Downs. And again, Matt Downs, for his first start in the American Le Mans Series, that was a fine effort. He does have some experience here in the past at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. He raced here in the Cooper Tires IMSA Prototype Lights category a couple of years ago. But that was a fine stint at the wheel of car number 8.
Now taking a look there at Klaus Graf now behind the wheel of the Pickett Racing Muscle Milk number 6 car. That is the HPD chassis with the Honda engine, and he's in 3rd position at the moment. The leaders lapping last time around in and David Heinemeier Hansen into the pits last time around. Scott Tucker has assumed the lead of the motor race, but Klaus Graf took 3 seconds out of the guys ahead of. There is the 37 car in the pit lane, and he's given up the race lead, as Jeremy suggested he might do. That's Martin Plowman already being installed into the cockpit.
Despite this being the first trip here for both of the Conquest Racing drivers, they really feel confident in their car setup. Even though this car is new to the American Le Mans Series, it does race around the world, and they do know that this configuration is really good in the high-speed corners so far this weekend. They've been pretty unstoppable. I was talking to Martin. He believes that the harder you work, the luckier you get to keep it for a car. Oh, and that was a big misstep. David Heinemeier Hansen getting thrown from the car as he was trying to help his co-driver get strapped in. He is climbing over the wall and seems to be okay.
That was desperation from Heinemeier Hansen there. He was trying to put the driver ID code and radio in. They struggled with the straps there, Jeremy.
Yeah, but not as... Here is the 055 car onto pit lane as well. Scott Tucker brings that car in, and he will get out. Christophe Bouchou will take over at the wheel of 055.
Scott Tucker climbs out, and we'll see the Frenchman Christophe Bouchou that we heard from earlier take over the driving duties. It's been a busy weekend for Scott Tucker. This is his 5th race of the weekend. He has 2 IMSA Lights races, 2 GT3 Porsche Cup races, and of course this American Le Mans Series race. And typically he likes to actually run 2 cars in these ALMS races. They've elected not to run the 95 car this weekend and focus their efforts just on this 055 car. But the goal, aside from getting a win, is always to get as many laps as possible for Scott Tucker. He spent some time in the overall lead here today.
Kelly Stavist and Jamie Howe, our pit lane reporters here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And there is the 2nd place car, 8 seconds in arrears it was, and as he'll come through this time, he must be in the lead.
Indeed so.
Has assumed the lead. Klaus Graf back to the point then, as we've got an hour and 28 minutes completed. So that's just over an hour and a quarter still to go. Looking down on the circuit, you've got to say it's looking better than ever.
There is our overall race leader, so the car number 6 there, Klaus Graf, back into the overall lead, got a handy advantage of about 20 seconds over Chris Dyson in second place, car number 16. That car will be due another pit stop fairly soon, and I fancy this car is able to get to the end of the race probably on just one more pit stop, where I think the number 16 car will probably have to stop twice. And again, we talked about it earlier on, why the number 6 car did not come into the pit lane on either of the first 2 caution periods, because they were able to stay out front, have clean air, run a good pace, not as fast as they probably could go, but get to a state in the race from where they could get to the end of the race on just one more pit stop after that. So again, great strategy by Brandon Fry and the guys on the Muscle Milk team.
Now, what did we hear all the drivers saying at the start of the race? No mistakes, got to be clean. Yep. Bad news, I'm afraid, for the 055 of Level 5 Racing. In that last pit stop, they exceeded the 60km/h pit lane speed limit, and there is the evidence of the stop-go penalty for Christophe Bouchou, and that means Martin Plowman in the 37, the Conquest Endurance Morgan Nissan, is back to the head of the field in P2.
And that is exactly the differentiator between these 2 cars 2 weeks ago at Lime Rock Park. The number 37 car on that occasion got a speeding penalty on pit lane. They had to make an additional pit stop, and that cost them. They lost the race by around about half a second to this guy. Would have been, he finished under yellow, didn't it? But he was right behind him throughout that final stint. But the 37 car on that occasion had to settle for second place as a result of its penalty. This time around, it's a 055 car that has that penalty. Also, the number 37 car, we saw it onto the pit lane a couple of laps ago, and again there was a bit of a miscue, well, slightly longer than scheduled stop to change drivers, getting the belts done up. That was the problem they had 2 weeks ago as well. On that occasion, when Heinemar Hansen got out of the car, the belts had sort of tightened themselves up during the run, and when Martin Plowman he has a seat insert, he's a smaller driver than David Heinemar Hansen, put his seat insert in, and they literally couldn't get the belts around him. So they were fishing around trying to lengthen the belts, and it was just a really tough thing to do, and it took them a lot longer. It cost them about 45 seconds to tighten up those belts. So the team in the last 2 weeks have worked on the seat installation there to make sure that now you can actually reach those belts in case they do need to be adjusted.
That's again where small things make a big difference. Now, GTs, just have a look at the screen now, because we've got your Bergmeister leading in the 45 Flying Lizards. In second, Scott Sharp is the next car back. In third, Dirk Muller in the BMW is just coming across the line. In fact, I'm putting a lap on the 02 machine. We've got pit stops still to come for some of these cars, of course, but this is a genuine battle at the head of the field. Further back, there's the BMW and the Corvette, and that is Muller and Garcia, and they are battling for third and fourth. So that's your top 40 GT on that short straight between 2 and 3, between 1 and 2, excuse me.
That's right. We saw these split strategies we talked about earlier on during those earlier pit stops. So these guys are on one strategy. There is that battle for third and fourth between the BMW and the Corvette, and just 100 yards up the road is a battle between the Ferrari and the Porsche, just going out of the screen there. So pit stops, I think, for all of these guys in the not too distant future.
These GT cars are so evenly matched. We hear a lot of talk about which teams have got the most advantage, and people trying to work the rules and petitioning for a little bit of extra. Oh, and there's a slight problem for the BMW, and that's loud. The Corvette alongside. Now that was very interesting. Having said that they were so evenly matched, that was far too easy for Garcia or Muller.
Well, we heard Bill Auberlin say he was struggling with his tyres towards the end of his stint. I think the 55 car, the 56 car also is getting towards the end of its stint as well, with Dirk Muller here. Yeah, here he comes into the pit lane now. So I fancy that, again, the tyres are just beginning to give up a little bit there. He wasn't able to get on the throttle as early as he would have liked out of Moss Corner.
So here comes the Crowne Plaza BMW number 56. And this is the other half of that split strategy pit stop we were talking about earlier on. You'll see the fuel go in, tear off the windscreen, which is a clear plastic cover on the glass of that BMW. That saves the guys having to clean the windshield, or windscreen for those of you in Europe. Now, see, incoming driver there having to pull his helmet down to be able to see what was going on with that car as Dirk Muller has jumped out and Joey Hand has got in, and Joey had to actually physically pull his helmet down so he could see the fastening, the buckle of his 6-point harness. Well, that was a very, very good stop, as we've come to expect from Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan and the Crowne Plaza BMW team. There is your GT leader, Jörg Bergmeister, and Scott Sharp is closing him down.
Yeah.
That's for second, that's first and second, coming through the final corner, turn 10.
And again, I think these two will be making pit stops fairly soon as well. The Flying Lizard Porsche there leading the class with Patrick Long, and Jörg Bergmeister will be getting ready to take over the wheel of that car. And the 01 Scott Sharp, he will hand over to Johannes van Overbeek, who is making his 100th start in the American Le Mans Series this weekend.
And I think that's Martin Plowman who's coming through, which is the lead P2 car, third overall. Yes, it is. Coming through this GT battle, and that's one of the times when you've got to keep your concentration. Both Martin, who is flashing the headlights as they go down through 4 into that compression before climbing uphill. We do our best to show you the topography of this race circuit here, but frankly nothing other than standing at the bottom of turn 4 and looking up to turn 5 or coming up in a race car can prepare you for actually how steep that is. So Lizards, Ferrari in second, Porsche versus Ferrari, always a good thing to be able to say in GT racing, and how their season has turned around since Le Mans.
And Bergmeister and Patrick Long started 5th. They're now leading the GT category with some great pit work on the team that helps get you that position, but you have the speed now to hold off the rest of this GT class.
Well, we'll see. Everybody's getting ready to make their last stop. They can all make it about a bit over an hour. The 56 car just dove in. We don't know if they're going to be able to make it to the end. We're getting great tire life from Michelin. Our car's been pretty good. Not the best in qualifying trim, but it seems that the other guys sort of drop back after the first 5 or 6 laps of the stint, and then we can race with them. So we're excited. We qualified 5th at Lime Rock, and we were able to win, so we're trying to back it up. But it's going to get down and dirty at the end. We'll see if there's going to be a yellow flag. If not, then every single one of these laps is going to count. Lap traffic has been really tough, but we're having fun. Jörg's calm out there, and we're just going to try to keep hustling.
Sounds like from the team radio there might be one more pit stop. Thank you very much, Patrick.
Yeah, that should be about 15 or 16 minutes away for Jörg Bergmeister. No, sorry, a little bit less than that. Excuse me, about 11 minutes away. I was looking at Mickey's wrong hand there. So.
And that should be fine. That should be able they will be able to get to the end of the race from
and that's
there.
the key thing, of course. Yeah, you do not want to get that wrong and either run out of fuel on the track or make an extra pit stop.
Ferrari's lost a little bit of ground there, hasn't he, Scott Sharp? Just a little bit on that lap.
It's Lee Keane.
WeatherTech car.
Lee Keane's a driver that we probably don't talk about enough. He's done a really splendid job in this GTC WeatherTech Alex Job Racing Porsche. Spec Series, of course. And he had a cracking run of pole positions and wins last year, didn't he? And it seemed as though he was really getting himself dialed in. Can't be long before he thinks about moving up into GT or one of the prototype classes. I do really think he's got what it takes.
He's a big lad, though, isn't he?
He's tall, yes.
Yeah, both he and Cooper McNeil, they're both 6'3" or 4". Big guys.
The GTC we were looking at there, it's a spec category, by which we mean there is only one car, engine and tyre combination that is allowed. It is the venerable Porsche 911. This is the last iteration, of course, the 997. And this is what's called a Cup car, which means it's actually built, for the most part, on the same production line in Stuttgart that the street cars are. It's almost like just having a different trim level. So, you know, this one, you look at the build sheet, it's got black leather and the hardback seats, and this one, oh, it's a GTC car, let's put a roll cage in. I'm simplifying that a bit for those that know their Porsches, but it's not that far away, and it's a very clever way to build very, very competent racing cars, as they have been known for years and years for being on the button.
And Lee Keen, even though he has won sports car championships, this is his first race here. And just yesterday, he said he was still trying to figure his way around, and qualifying takes a lot more time to get up to speed at this particular racetrack than it does at most others. But he said in the near future, he thinks it might become a favorite, but right now he doesn't have enough time for it to be.
So Lee Keen continuing in elegant isolation at the moment in third position. Michael Valiente leads the GTC class. Jörg Bergmeister, Junqueira, Plowman and Graf are the other 4 class leaders.
Hey, I'm Patrick Long. People at the racetrack often ask me, what does a Porsche factory driver actually have to do? Stay tuned and you'll find out.
When it comes to fun family getaways, it's got to be Holiday Inn Club Vacations. Room to be yourself.
First day of spring. Oh, my battery is perfect.
Yep, we've been on a battery tender for 6 years.
Well, I wish I could say the same.
What do you mean?
Old man forgot to plug me in.
Yeah, before I was on a battery tender, I flatlined. Ouch.
Well, at least this couldn't get any worse.
Don't let your batteries become a statistic. Connect a Deltran battery tender. Available at these fine retailers. If it's not a Deltran battery tender, it's just a pretender.
Hey, man. You're supposed to work up a sweat doing the work, not starting your equipment. A friend of mine who's a fireman told me this is what they use when they need stuff to start. This SCF has no ethanol in it, so it can sit in there for months and start up easy every time. Plus, it's pre-mixed with oil, so you can pitch this stuff. Try SCF, the perfect fuels for gas-powered tools.
It's not just what we gave the new Corvette 427 that makes it special. It's what we didn't.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Grand Prix of Mosport at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, the American Le Mans Series 5th round for 2012. John Hindhaugh and Jeremy Shaw with the BMW aerial camera giving us a fantastic look down on some of the changes around the track. The good news is that the circuit still retains the challenging nature that it has had forever and a day. And we've had good racing already over the first hour and 42 minutes of this 2 hours and 45. It's a time contest. It runs 2 time. There is the Patron-sponsored Ferrari of Scott Sharp, who has just pitted out of second position and handed over to his teammate Johannes van Overbeek, who is running his 100th start.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how this goes to the end of the race. Johannes, he's fast, and this team has been knocking on the door of victory lane, and they want to open that door and get through it. So still only 2 retirements in the race, just the 52 car and the 34 car out in that incident we saw earlier on, and you kind of feel for Marino Franchitti, hadn't he? He didn't get a chance to drive at Le Mans in the Delta Wing because that car was taken out after 6 hours into the race, but he hadn't got behind the wheel of the thing yet because of the way they set up their driver rotation. He was always set to be the second driver here as well. This is his first race since Le Mans, or should have been. this first race since Le Mans weekend. But once again, that 52 car out in the early stages of Paul Marino. He's not having a lot of luck this year. Hopefully he'll bounce back soon.
So just on an hour, a little bit over to run. Klaus Graf leads from Chris Dyson, 6 from 16. For Martin Plowman doing a great job in 3rd place.
Yeah, and the gap from 3rd to 4th, which is the two P2 cars, about 23 seconds between them.
We talked earlier on about the clean, fast and efficient Michelin Green X Challenge. Muscle Milk leading that with a 25.4 mark, 29.1. It's the lowest score, of course, that wins, level 5, and 30.3 for Conquest Endurance. Unusual not to see the Dyson in there because of their isobutanol fuel. So they're not having a great race at the moment.
Well, it's one of the reasons for that, I think, is because that car's already made 2 pit stops and the number 6 car's only made 1.
Well, that's a very good point, you see. There's Jeremy who's read through the equations. Corvette racing the number 3 car lead, and look how much closer it is in the GT category because the pit stops pretty much have balanced out between those 3 different manufacturers. So, Jeremy, as we ride on board with the number 4 Corvette, back out by the way, and has turned some 38 laps since it came back out. This has still got a bit of racing to do, and the tactics, particularly in GT, have yet to play out.
Yeah, that's right. We've still got, I think, a pit stop owed to us by the Flying Lizard team out in front. On board here with the 55 car York.
And that's a battle for position.
Yeah, it is.
With the Lotus in front, and it's not often we've said that. And that is a good run for Townsend Bell, isn't it, in that 23 car?
Yeah, turning some respectable lap times as well in that car. Still very much under development, but they've Townsend's been happy with the way that car has been handling this weekend. They've done an awful lot of work, both Alex Job Racing and at Lotus as well. Here's the number 3 car.
Antonio Garcia brings the Corvette in a long pit lane.
And we see the driver change taking place. So Antonio Garcia is out now. Jan Magnussen, the Dane, will take over driving duties on this number 3. They have finished 2nd 4 times, 3 of the 4 races this season. This team badly wants a win. Who have they been trailing? Well, they're trailing their sister car, the number 4, in points. And that number 4 car has also had a couple of wins. So for Jan Magnussen, he wants nothing but 1st place today.
And Jan Magnussen, he's got a massive amount of success. I think he's won 5 times here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And his first victory in the American Le Mans Series was right here in the Panos chassis in 1999. Had the car on the pole there as well. He's had the pole this weekend. And he's trying to keep alive an amazing streak of having won at least 1 race in every year of the American Le Mans Series. Jan Magnussen, the only driver to do that, but he hasn't yet got that win for 2012.
Townsend Bell ahead of us as we ride on board with Jörg Müller as they come over the top of the brow at 2.
Still behind him.
Yeah, that Lotus is looking great. Remember the a little bit of carbon fibre off the rear wing, I think, of the 20. Oh, it's part of the rear deck, isn't it? It's the centre part between the 2 wing uprights on the boot lid, if you will, or the engine cover, of course, as it's a centre down the inside, and there's the opportunity. Townsend Bell just drifting wide for a moment, and 55 makes the pass and goes through into 8th position. And is that York Bergmeister, the class leader, coming to put a lap on them?
Yeah.
Here's the 2nd place car in the pit lane, and this will be their last pit stop. They'll run to the checkered flag from here.
And now Chris Dyson is turning.
You're clear.
It was a full-service pit stop. Seemed to go pretty smoothly, and despite the team's troubles this weekend, this is the most successful venue for Dyson Racing. They have 6 wins, 4 pole positions, and 16 podiums, but they've really been chasing themselves all day. Guy Smith said earlier, if we only had a couple more days, maybe we could get this setup right.
Yeah, they've certainly made big gains because both drivers were pretty spooked by the way the car was handling earlier on, but I think they're going to have to make 1 more pit stop before the end of the race.
Right on 10 minutes too, so our calculations were about right as the leader in GT comes in, the Flying Lizard.
So this should be the final stop for that 45 Flying Lizards Porsche. One of their team strategy was really tire wear. They did the fewest qualifying laps of any of the GT teams, only 4 laps on the tires with which they had to start the race. But they were really hoping They said they're down on straight line speed, so they were hoping to compensate that for other ways. Certainly their pit strategy is played out, and another very quick stop for the 45 Flying Lizard.
Yeah, and there's the number 4 car. That's, of course, had a long stop earlier on. But where is Jörg Bergmeister going to rejoin the track in relation to Jan Magnussen? It was in a little while ago. That's going to be the critical factor there. Here in PC, the leader is Bruno Junqueira for RSR Racing. Boy, he's desperate for a win in this car. He's been super fast all season long, Bruno, but had absolutely no luck. Didn't have a particularly good run in qualifying yesterday, so he wants to set that record straight here in the race.
Just looking at the pit boards there, Chris Pitt now. He's done that. I think that was the Dyson pit board. On board with Andy Lally, the new recruit to Flying Lizards. Oh, that's not true, actually. He drove with them at Sebring earlier on the season, did he not? But subbing for Marco Holzer this weekend, who's got a clashing commitment over in Europe, in I think it's the GT Open. So in GT, did the 45 Flying Lizards Pat Long get back out in front of Jan Magnussen? That is the key. Joey Hahn should be sitting there ahead of Johannes van Overbeek.
3 seconds of fuel, 4 tires will get a tear off, we'll replace both drink bottles for you.
There we go. Cool, calm words from the pit wall. And as they come around this time, the GT field will reset as they run to the checkered flag. Makes a nice early dive into the pit stop. There is Joey Hahn going down into turn 1, gets the nose of the Crown Plaza BMW turned into the apex. And listen to that V8 singing away. Watch for the bump. He gets around it nicely and cuts back to the second apex. That was nicely done. Now ahead of him, I think that's the WeatherTech car, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, the GTC car. And where are the leaders in GT? I think not very far.
Well, that's Magnussen, I think, 2 cars ahead. And there is Pat Long just going into Moss Corner, the distinctive Lizard silver and red livery. So not this car, but the 2 cars ahead. We're in 3rd. 2nd is the Corvette. And just ahead of the Corvette, going over the brow now in the distance, that was Pat Long.
Yeah, well, you're Bergmeister. Yeah, so it's the Flying Lizard Porsche that leads, but by not much more than a second or so. This is a great battle developing here. We've got the Porsche ahead of the Corvette, and then the BMW and the Ferrari Johannes van Overbeek 01 car. It's only about 2.5 seconds farther behind the car with which we are on board right now. So the top 4 in GT covered by about half a dozen seconds.
And Bergmeister did get through, and the Lizards did get through in that 45 car without giving up the lead. That's great strategy by Thomas Blam, the man on the wall who calls the strategy for the 45 car. And the gap is just about 1.5 seconds between Bergmeister and Magnussen, 45 and 3, and then another couple of 3 seconds back to Joey Hahn.
Yeah, fascinating battle developing here. And
they're all going to the flag now.
Yeah, they're all good to go to the end of the race, certainly. And talking to Jörg Bergmeister yesterday, this Porsche, as you said, they struggled really badly the first part of the season, had an awful time at Le Mans as well. But since then, they came back, they won the race at Lime Rock Park a couple of weeks ago. And through the practice and up until qualifying yesterday afternoon, the car had been very fast, and they were a bit frustrated by the pace all of a sudden that the Corvettes and the BMW actually and the Ferrari showed in qualifying. But he said, look, we're happy with where we are. We know we've got a good race car, and that is exactly what he and Patrick Long are showing this afternoon for the Flying Lizard Motorsports Porsche team.
And if we know anything about Flying Lizard Motorsport, it is the fact that when we get into the clutch part of the season, when the races are coming thick and fast, their organisation, their professionalism can carry them through. They are very well organised. And when we've got races pretty much every other weekend, some teams find that very difficult. All teams find that very difficult, but the Lizard organisation, it seems they almost seem to thrive on it, Jeremy.
Yeah, fantastic. And Jörg Bergmeister last time around was a 117.6. Unfortunately, we don't have the full scoring up on here, but that's well underneath the track record for GT cars here, which was actually set back in 2008 by Dirk Müller. He did a 1:18.0, the fastest lap in GTs last year. Actually set by Bruno Junqueira in a Jaguar. They came, they were they were somewhere behind. They came on to put a fresh set of tyres and see what they could do. But that was the fastest lap that car, that a GT car set last year during the race with a 1:18.1. And let's say last time around a 1:17.6. New GT fastest lap record here at this track by Jörg Bergmeister. Or at least a sub-record lapper. Whether that's the fastest lap of the race thus far, I honestly can't tell you.
Well, the local boys made good this afternoon. Kyle Marcelli in the number 8 car leads the prototype challenge class 4 merchant services racing in that Oregon. These cars in the PC category, just a reminder, all the same chassis and tyre and engine combination, big V8s, they sound fantastic. Lots of cubic inches. And a very difficult but very rewarding car to drive, and Kyle Marcelli has made a habit out of getting it right.
Yeah, and he and Matt Downs, they've done a my hat's off to Matt Downs. He's an optometrist by trade and a racing driver, just he's an amateur racing driver, but he's obviously very, very good. He's done a really fine job in his stint, his first stint, as I said earlier on, in the American Le Mans Series. Handed that car back to the local hero, Kyle Marcelli.
Race car lead. Jamie Howe has got some news for us from the Michelin tyre team.
There are different kinds of grip. There's mechanical grip that comes from the car setup and things like the shocks and the springs. Then there's the aero grip that comes from the wing, the splitter, the dive planes. But the tire is the only part of the car that touches the racetrack, and the tire grip comes from the tire compound interacting with the track surface. Now, as the race goes on, the track gets hot, it gets greasy. The surface is much more polished, so finding that grip becomes a bigger challenge. Take a look at these two rubber racers. This one, it's very soft. This one is so hard I can't even squeeze it. Look what it does to the track. Naturally, the soft one, it's going to get more grip because it can really get into the track surface, whereas this one doesn't get the same amount of grip, but it's going to last a whole lot longer. Teams don't want the compromise. They want both the grip and the durability, so Michelin has to work to deliver both. Their tire designers and chemists have improved these tires so much that they've gained a full range, and what that means is that a medium compound tire today has the same amount of grip as a soft compound tire just 2 or 3 years ago, but they last a lot longer.
And you know, consumers get that technology too. The Michelin Pilot Supersport tyres have incredible grip and have virtually doubled the industry mileage warranty. The Michelin Defender tyre is now warranted for 90,000 miles. The GTC leader in the pit lane and gets the shout to go. Very quick stop indeed from the JDX Motorsport guys. They've turned that car around very quickly indeed. Giving up the lead in the race for the moment. And it's Spencer Pumpelly in the TRG Porsche, the black and blue machine, that will lead. But I think he's got to give us a stop, has Spencer. So
I would think so. It's
Valiente.
All the cars in GTC seem to be running a slightly different strategy, so it's very difficult to keep a track of it.
I've got to say that the Green Hornet guys must be really cursing their luck, because they got Peter Lasafra in at the start and was doing a great job holding on at the front of the field. He had just dropped a second when that incident that broke out, full course caution, took him out of contention. An incident for which the prototype car was penalised for avoidable contact. And in the American Le Mans Series, it's not about whether it was intentional, it was about whether it was avoidable. Right? It's a smart way to look at contact in motor racing. Certainly 2 of the cars seriously disadvantaged. So we're inside the last 50 minutes as we're watching JDX Michael Valiente down in 3rd place in GTC now, getting back up to speed. Klaus Graf still leading and running around in the middle 17-second lap mark, 1:10.4 last time for the leader. Bit of a battle for 2nd and 3rd in the prototype challenge as we're looking at the new leader for GTC, and that is Spencer Pumpelly.
Behind him is Christoph Bouchou, 3rd place overall. We saw him make that extra pit stop, the speeding penalty that he picked up earlier on. He's got the margin down to 0.55 car. He's about 16 seconds behind Martin Plowman in number 37 for Conquest Endurance last time around. He's going to be coming across the last couple of corners now and across the line. We'll see what the gap is, as you talked about, John. Here is the number 66 car onto pit lane. And just let me just say, Christoph Boucher picked up a couple of seconds over Martin Plowman last time around.
Now that will cycle the WeatherTech Alex Chubb racing car back to the front as it was slightly earlier on. And he's got quite a gap actually on Michael Valiente. The question is, can that car go to the end? And he's just gone through and taken the lead. That is the very car we were talking about. And again, just because these are the challenge classes doesn't mean the pit stop rules change. You see no work going on whilst the fuel is going into the Adobe Road Winery sponsored machine. The TRG team, and what Kevin Buckler and his guys don't know about running Cup class Porsches, frankly probably isn't worth knowing. They have done a great job both here in the American Le Mans Series and in the GT3 Challenge, and of course in Grand Prix as well, where they regularly run multiple cars in things like the 24 hours, and they are competing at the very highest level here in the American Le Mans Series as we see that car rumbling out of the pit lane, stays to the right of the yellow blend line, that's fine, and pulls back onto line for the awesome turn number 2 here. A new set of Yokohama rubber that you saw going on there. So he will have cycled back into 3rd place behind Michael Valiente, who's already gone through.
About 30 seconds, I think, was the lead that Lee Keane had in number 22 WeatherTech car for Alex Job Racing over that Hertz car for JDX Racing car number 11, Michael Valiente. Here we are on board with Christoph Boucher. He's flying at the moment. 1:11.2 last time around. He picked up another couple of seconds over Martin Plowman. There's just 11 seconds between the 2nd and 3rd place cars overall, and of course the battle for P2.
Christoph Boucher coming up on traffic. Traffic with 5 classes on the track at the same time, always an issue. And he's trying to charge back to the back of Martin Plowman and goes through. Changing up in the middle of the corner there, showing just how comfortable he is with the downforce on that car. Now, we mentioned earlier on about the GTC category, and coming up through the classes is part of what the ladder series is about here in the American Le Mans Series, and we've had Porsche action already this weekend. The IMSA GT3 Cup challenged by Yokohama, picking up Hertz as a supporter of this fantastic series. The fastest and most prestigious single-make championship in the world, and early on Sean Johnson was leading the Platinum class, racing as ever around the circuit here, very, very intense. The gold leader, Angel Benitez Jr. in the 05 car, and then contact between Hacker and Seladorf. There was some clean passing as well further up the field as the 35 of Bryce Miller went through to the lead of the Platinum class. Angel Benitez Jr. taking the checkered flag as well. And that initiated some celebrations down in the pit lane. Bryce Miller picking up a great victory with Angel winning the gold class.
it comes to fun family getaways, it's got to be Holiday Inn Club Vacations. Room to be yourself.
Well, hello everybody. John Hindhaugh and Jeremy Shaw enjoying the action at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and how could we not, with fabulous weather, a great 2.5 mile 10 corner racing circuit, a fantastic atmosphere provided not only by Ron Fellows and the new ownership consortium, but also by the very knowledgeable fan group that we have here. Let's have a look at the Forza recap as we've just gone over mid-race. 2 full course cautions. The overall leader remains the number 6 Muscle car. It's Klaus Graf at the wheel, although he has just come into the pit lane. He will not give up the lead. Just 2 retirements. The 52 Matheson Motorsports car, Ken Dobson was at the wheel of that when it was bumped into by the Green Hornet Racing 34 of Peter Lasafra, the GTC car. An innocent bystander, in fairness. That was contact from one of the prototypes that put it off. And the 6 car was in fact penalised, excuse me, the 06 car was penalised for that on a stop, and 1 minute 20 penalty for avoidable contact. So that's how we stand at the moment, Jeremy, and the house is still not going on anything here because we've still got a number of issues to resolve here. Final pit stop made by Klaus Graf, and by dint of having Martin Plowman pretty much a lap down, he has remained in the lead. However, hearing from race control that they've made a mistake in the pits.
Too many men
We had a little bit of an error there. I need you to come in the pit lane. It's a stop plus 20. Stop plus 20. We're fine, buddy. No problem. Just watch your speed on pit in. Be very careful on pit in.
Again, that is the technical director for Muscle Milk Racing, Brandon Fry, there, relaying the news to Klaus Graf. There was a little bit of an error on pit lane. Too many men over the pit wall. You're only allowed a total, I think, of 5 or 6 people over the pit wall any one time. And let's have a look at the stop there.
Oh yeah, 2, 4, 6, 7.
One of them has to be holding the fire extinguisher. There. You can see it on the left-hand side standing up. But there was somebody else, I think, who was
there's a guy behind that tyre who was over the wall that didn't need to be. He was handling the tyres, and that's what's cost them that.
But as Brandon said, it'll be a stop and 20-second hold here. It'll seem like an age for Klaus Graf, but they still have a pretty good margin over everybody else, so it shouldn't cost them the race lead. It will certainly eat up a large percentage of the gap that they had made up over the rest of the field.
And what we should say is the next car back isn't even another P1 car. It's the P2 leader of Martin Plowman, who is the next car back. Now, in the GT category, battle for 7th position. Bryce Miller is ahead of us. We're riding with Andy Lally. Remember, we saw Andy dealing eventually with the 23 Lotus Evora of Alex Job Racing, the battery tender car, and now he's caught up to the Dunlop shod Porsche of Paul Miller Racing.
Yeah, and Bryce Miller, this is not the same Bryce Miller that we saw winning one of the GT3 Challenge by Yokohama.
That confused me a
exactly. The driver in GT3 Challenge was D. Bryce Miller. He's a youngster from Southern California. This is Bryce Miller, who's from New Jersey. He's showing this car, number 48 car, with Sasha Marson. And there behind them also is one of the Extreme Speed Motorsports cars. We've got certainly a big battle here developing at the front of the field in GT. The Ferrari there is 3rd place overall in GT. The 2 cars just ahead of him, the Porsche there, the blue shade band, that is Andy Lally. In front of that is Sasha Marson. They are both a lap down, but just ahead of those two. You can see him going over the hill now into turn 2. That is a battle for the lead right there in GT, with Jörg Bergmeister now and Jan Magnussen hot on his heels. Here they are coming up into turn 3 here.
Yeah, the leaders go through, and then is that Bryce Miller or Sasha in the 48 car? I think it's Bryce, isn't it? That's in that car at the moment. But the chasing is definitely going on because Johannes van Overbeek in the 01 Ferrari will want to get through this little sub-battle, if you like. There he is, he's 3rd. And at the moment, he's not wanting to lose any ground on those 2 cars that Jeremy pointed out just a few moments ago. And the frustration levels now will be turned up to 11. Well, he's got by the Porsche, has he? Yes, just about.
And if you see on the front of his car, the team has put a special decal on there this week, and that's because this is his 100th American Le Mans start for Johannes van Overbeek. In those 100 starts, he's got 39 podiums, 6 wins. He certainly knows what it takes to win in multi-class racing. When he talks about Mosport, I like what he says the best. He says it's like a high-speed ballet. It's a cooperative endeavor to get around efficiently. Right now, though, he's having to fight through the traffic.
Oh, 3 wide going into turn 1, and the guy on the inside was Klaus Graf, our leader. As we had 3 categories of car turning into turn 1 at the same time. Now, I know this sounds, I'm going to say something, and you're all going to say, kind of, that is very obvious. But here at Mosport particularly, it is, as we're watching the lead battle in GT, all of the action is from turning to the apex of the corner, and that's because the speeds of the cars down the longer straights are actually not that far apart.
No, that's true. They are very fast in a straight line. You can see here this battle now between the Porsche and the Corvette coming onto the Mario Andretti straightaway, as it's called. It's not straight. You can see there the Corvette tucking in right behind. This is a battle now towards the end of the race, and Jörg Bergwasser, he's going to have his hands full because Jan Magnussen, we heard from him at the top of the show, he wants this win.
Goes to the outside, and that's the long way round. It's a difficult pass, and there's the leader, Klaus Graf. Now, Klaus will recognise these 2 cars. He'll know, or he will be told by his pit wall, that those guys are battling for the lead in GT, so he'll not make any stupid moves. And what you saw there, he did try to dive down the inside. He's using the superior power and aerodynamics of the P car to go through on the straight.
Indeed, so the overall leader there just passes the GT leaders, and just behind the 2 GT leaders coming over the brow of the hill, that is the PC leader, which is Kyle Marcelli, and he's being Bruno Junqueira is trying to track down Kyle Marcelli, but there's a little bit of a gap between those 2 cars, a bit over 20 seconds.
So there we had 3 of the 5 class leaders rather in the same shot at the same time, and here is Kyle Marcelli, who seems to be driving this car forever. Goes into Mott's corner.
Well, yeah, Matt, he started the car, then he handed over to Matt Downs about 20 minutes into the race.
First yellow flag,
yeah,
yes.
Matt did a 1 hour stint. I was watching the car, so he had to do a minimum of 1 hour. The amateur driver has to do a minimum of 1 hour at the wheel of the car. Matt Downs did that, and then he changed over again to Kyle Marcelli. So great strategy there by the Merchant Services Racing team.
Now, look at what's happened when that prototype challenge car went through. They were very, very close, and now there's the 2 battling for the lead. They got spread out by, what, 4, 5, maybe more cars' lengths, and the Ferrari just coming through the final corner now to the left of the picture, just dropping out of our BMW area cam. There he is at the top of the screen. That is 3rd position. Actually, and that is Van Overbeek.
Yeah, actually, I think that was the one in the green shade, Ben, wasn't it? But Van Overbeek is just a little bit farther back. I think that was the 02 car. The 2 Extreme 2 motor cars look very, very similar, but still, there's not an awful lot between the top 3, and absolutely nothing between the top 2.
And one thing that we talk about that makes the American Le Mans Series so different are the multi-classes, and that's one advantage that Jan Magnussen has. He's raced here in both prototypes as well as GT cars. He actually won the first race here in 1999 behind the wheel of a prototype, and so he knows how to manage that traffic. He knows where he can trust his race car, and he knows where he has to let it go. Right now, he's being very smart, and that's exactly what his crew chief, Dan Binks, is telling him over the radio, just to hang in there, and they'll get him to the checker. Kelly?
We see the 56 BMW and Joey Ann coming in for his final pit stop. He got 4 new Dunlop tires, and he's out. It was relatively smooth. May have been a little bit of a hang-up on getting on one of the new wheels. That cost him just a tiny bit of time, but the 56 in and out of pit lane.
Yeah. And again, different strategies by the GT guys. That car was running 4th before that pit stops, but that'll drop Joey back to... he might go back to 5th. Yeah, he might actually hang on to 4th place, actually, but still, he's a long way now behind the top 3 in the class.
But he's got slightly better rubber. He'll have no difference in his fuel load because he'll be fueled to the end of the race. But I'm presuming that all of the guys ahead of him are good for the rest of the race. So looking down on the double apex right-hander that is Moss corner, and named because Sterling Moss.
Absolutely, yeah.
It was the man that said when this place was being designed and they were originally going to have a more conventional hairpin there, he said, I'll tell you what, old boy, if you can just make it a double apex right-hander with a little bit of a straight in the middle of it, it's much better.
Yeah, it is a great corner, and that is the slowest corner on the track here. But it's still taken a pretty good lick, and you can carry some good momentum around there. And then you need to carry the straight on the speed onto this uphill drag toward turn 8. This is battle, fabulous stuff.
Do you know, over the years, Jeremy, the GT category in the American Le Mans Series has been like a World Cup of GT drivers. We've had from every corner of the GT driving and racing world, and it seldom, I should say, seldom fails to entertain. And you know, Corvette now in the GTE category, after having, let's be honest, their own way for quite a long time in GT1 with not a lot of competition, but now with Ferrari, Corvette, Aston Martin, I'm hearing we potentially might see Aston Martin back at Petit Le Mans. With Vita coming in, there is the 37. This is Martin Plowman pinning out a second place, more importantly, out of the lead in P2.
That's right, and the 055 car has not been in lately, but I think probably will be due a pit stop as well. Although the gap between them was 33 seconds last time around, so whether Bouchou has already made I don't know, honestly.
Well, there's Bouchou. Bouchou's already at Moss and heading through. I think Bouchou's gone through. Again, the question will be, will he have to stop?
I think Bouchou will have to stop as well. But here's this battle again for GT, and of course we've got Jörg Bergmeister there in the Porsche leading, Jan Magnussen in the Corvette in second place, so these two have a history.
Oh yes, they do. Cast your mind back, dear viewer and listener.
That's the Raceway Laguna Seca a few years ago, battling for the championship, weren't they, the last laps of the race.
It didn't end well for Jan. No, that was a very expensive end to the race. Well, Henry, possibly the Flying Lizard, the 45 car, has got a little bit of problem. You are allowed traction control on these GT cars, and it sounds like you're talking to the pit wall, maybe having one or two issues with how the traction control is or isn't working. As traffic once again will play a part here. They're getting on the extreme speed Ferrari, heading up that extremely steep hill. Now, will that Ferrari get in the way? Oh, the Vette is right there. The Corvette is right under the rear wing of the Flying Lizard Porsche, and the Ferrari will be giving a little bit of aerodynamic help to Jörg Bergmeister in the Porsche. He's going to have to pick a side and stick with it. This is going to be very close indeed. And Bergmeister goes to the right-hand side, and he's unceremoniously chopped by this 02 car of Guy Cosmo. No more Mr. Nice Guy Cosmo.
Yeah.
He's got a quick car in a straight line, but those are the leaders, and there were blue flags.
Yes, there are. And what's it there? You look at the back of the screen as well. There is the other extreme speed car just coming out of turn 10. So Guy Cosmo has got behind. They've made an extra pit stop in that 02 car. Guy Cosmo has taken over from Ed Brown, and we've seen how quick Guy Cosmo can be. He's not now in contention to win the class in GT, but is he looking to give some a little bit of assistance to his teammate in the 01 car?
It's a team game. I've always said that, and if you've got two bullets in the gun, you can play those games, but you've got to be pretty canny about it, not to attract the attention and indeed the ire of the race director.
Or me.
Yeah,
I like fair play, and I don't want. Guy Cosmo, he's a straight-up guy. He's a class act. I just hope he's not going to sort of hold up those two unnecessarily. I'm sure he won't. He's a professional, and I think a very mature driver. And we talked about the pit stop was owed to us by the 055 car. Christophe Bouchou has just made what we hope will be the final pit stop for any of the P2 because he's straight over that line there, didn't
yes, he was. Plowman's gone through. Plowman's gone through and retaken the lead in that category. The question is how close is it going to be when they come back around and we see the distance between them? Just going back to that GT battle, it'll be interesting just to see how close the 01 car of Johannes van Overbeek is. He was only 2 seconds behind them last time around, and I think it'll be less than this.
And about 4 or 5 laps ago, that gap was 5 seconds back to Johannes.
Johannes is on a tear at the moment. Yes. But again, another one of those drivers that we'll talk about him. Might not be one of the better known names in sports car racing, but my goodness me, he does a good job. And this young man here is the young Martin Plowman. This is the P2 leader in this race. It's Nissan or Honda engine, although there's a number of different engines that can be used. Open or coupe allowed. It's a cost-capped formula. And they are a relatively cost-effective car to buy and to run. A number of different chassis that you can use, although we've got HPT and Morgan here in Canada this weekend.
You were thrown back from the car. What happened on that driver change?
I was just a smidge slow on the belts, so I could hear this engine start up just as I was done. So I basically just jumped backwards to make sure that I wouldn't get caught in anything or run over. So thankfully it was timed just at the right moment, and we got everything done without holding up the car.
Luckily you landed on a tire and not against the wall. Great battle going on right now. Thank you.
Oh my goodness me, this has implications in the prototype challenge car. This is the Merchant Services car. Kyle Marcelli with what looks to be a puncture.
Yeah, a big spin there, and that car is not sitting correctly. I think there's damage to the left rear of that car. So clearly a problem. That car just made what would have been its final pit stop of the day inside the final half hour of this race. So we were talking about the strategy a little while ago. They're again off sequence with the other contenders in PC. But that is a big spin there, and it looks like that rear wheel is awry. Let's see if there's a contact here. Yes.
Oh.
With the WeatherTech car.
Oh, and he's hit the wall hard on driver's left there, and that's unprotected concrete. Now, listen, as well as watch, he's looking around. So,
I think maybe there's a big wobble on there. It didn't look like...
But surely the WeatherTech car wouldn't be catching him up at that point, and he wouldn't certainly be braking. That's a very odd one. So there is the, well, there was a little bit of damage on the WeatherTech car already, as we've got a full course caution. Full course caution, and the yellow and red stripe flag for either debris or fluid on the racetrack. I wonder if he got a puncture first.
You can see that right rear was flat on that car there. It was off the rim, and yeah, you're right. I'm wondering whether that tyre let go for some reason coming up the hill there. That caused him to get in that huge wobble. He lost control, hit the wall on the left-hand side, and then spun into the runoff area there at turn 8.
Yeah,
that would be a scary moment for Kyle Marcelli. What a shame. Those guys, they've done a fabulous job. They've just had really no luck at all this season. Matt Downs did a super stint. Kyle Marcelli has been super fast and was getting the job done. He'd made that pit stop. He'd lost the lead in PC to the RSR car of Bruno Junqueira. But, of course, now the challenge is ended for the hopes of a victory for Merchant Services Racing this afternoon.
And by the way, for those of you thinking, when I'm talking about cost cap P2 cars, how much is cost cap and how much does Hindhaugh think is good value? 355,000 euros for that car all up, and pretty much ready to go, including data logging systems, and at current exchange rates that is pretty much the same for, that's a little bit more on the dollar side of things, but not much.
Another disappointing day here at Merchant Services. Matt Down is Kyle Marcelli's co-driver. Matt, what did you see? What's happened in there?
It looked like he got hit from somebody and going down the back straight. The Muscle Milk car had a problem, and Kyle just took his normal line, and I think someone hit him. It's unfortunate. Merchant Services team did a great job. You know, it's disappointing.
Yeah, not sure if that was the Muscle Milk, but despite that, you guys tried to switch up your strategy by putting Kyle in the first and third positions. Must just be so disappointing to lose that position.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we were behind Bruno here at the end, but we were confident that Kyle could catch him. So that, I mean, our game plan worked. It's just not quite.
If we have another replay, I'll let you get a look at it. I don't think it was Muscle Milk, but disappointment here at Merchant Services.
Yeah, it was the 20 Dyson of Eric Lux, the 22 Porsche. There's the car coming into it here. Now we lose sight of them behind the hill for a moment. Is he tagged by the Dyson first? Is that what it does? Now there's the Muscle Milk car easing off. to avoid the incident and the debris. That's much later. I wonder if out of sight of our camera there, Jeremy, there was a little tag from the 20 on the right rear which caused that puncture. I can't imagine it was the 22 WeatherTech car, because he wouldn't be catching him at that point. The PC car should be quicker than the Porsche.
Yeah, it was a very strange, because it was just that camera really didn't tell the full story there. The guys who were watching there on top of the hill there will be able to tell
they're
us
all going, Shaw and Hindhaugh, we saw that perfectly.
Yeah,
exactly. So apologies. Now, hang on a second. The guys in tape doing their usual phenomenal job have got us an angle from the rowboat from the opposite side of the car, which we might be able to have a look at in a moment. And I get the opportunity to see that before you do. But once again, it gives us a chance to say thanks to the guys in the tape. So the recovery continues as we have just over 20 minutes still to go in the American Le Mans Series. It's our 5th round, and Mid-Ohio in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks to all the fans for turning out. You're having a good time out there today, I can tell. The racing has been fast and furious. It's exactly what we expect, and taking advantage of the new facilities here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Klaus Graf leads it. Plowman, Junqueira, Bergmeister and Vienti, the class leaders. And plenty of work still going on to improve the facilities here for everybody.
When it comes to fun family getaways, it's got to be Holiday Inn Club Vacations. Room to be yourself.
Canadian Tires Motorsport Park welcomes the 5th round of the American Le Mans Series for 2012. Now, what exactly is a factory driver? Porsche's Flying Lizard Pat Long gives us a brief peek.
Being a factory driver, you're one of 9. And we represent the company from a motorsport effort. They produce more race-ready race cars than any manufacturer out there, and that means there's a lot of workload for us as, you know, advisors, as drivers to get in, do setup, to help the client to further their experience.
Porsche's been fantastic to work with. Couldn't really ask for anything more. You've got a great car, great series, great support from the manufacturer. We even get to drive with the factory pros sometimes and get coaching from them.
So it's a little soft on the front, but it's comfortable. It's nice to drive. Just have fun. It's really, really nice. Okay, so the car is good then.
So it's really cool to meet the personalities and to try and help shorten the learning curve for them, to supply them with a data reference lap or some advice on setting up the car, and then to cheer them on in the race and to feel a sense of achievement that you had a little bit of involvement in some of their success.
You're not missing any of the action as Pat was explaining that to us. As you can see, the cars are running around behind the Porsche Panamera safety car, and here is Guy Smith in the pit lane.
Brings the 16 Dyson Lola Mazda to a stop. It was a very quick one, just a splash of fuel, which is what they needed. Chris Dyson telling me earlier, if we don't get a help from a yellow, we will have to pit one more. Well, they got the yellow, but it looks like they still had to do a splash and go. And the 17 is in as well.
5th in class, Brian Sellers looks like he has stayed aboard that car, but he's getting a full set of Vulcan tyres.
And that car is still on the lead lap in GT, I think running in 5th place in the class.
So he's
done a nice job, actually.
Yes, he has gone pretty well today. They were hoping for a little more of the showers that we had earlier on. Joined in the booth here by Ron Fellows, part of the New World Order here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And what's it like being part of the other side now, Ron, now that you're making the decisions and having to make the tough decisions in the big books?
What, you want the honest answer?
Yeah, of course I do.
It was way easier being a driver.
You guys, when I pulled up on Thursday afternoon here and came in my usual entrance, I honestly almost did not recognise the place, going down through the double-sized new tunnel, looking up at what you've done to the paddock, and everywhere I went around the track, there seems to have been earthworks done.
Yeah. You know, my partner Carl Fidani has tremendous vision, being in the commercial development, real estate business. You know, and certainly not doesn't have the knowledge of the racing business like I do, but he has quickly figured out what it is that he'd like to see, and again, we're trying to improve the infrastructure for competitors, improve the spectator experience, and that's what we're working on. And next door here, we've got the new event center, and it'll be ready for next season as well. So.
Crucially, Jeremy and I have both said you haven't altered the character or indeed the layout of the track at all. It is still the challenging 2.5 miles of tarmac that it always has been.
Well, and if I had $1 for every driver that came up and said, "You're not doing anything to the track, right?" You know, yesterday watching, I was in the Corvette pits, and when Jan Magnussen got out of the car for his qualifying lap, you know, he is just as excited as a kid at Christmas. And that's, you know, a place like this, Le Mans, even a road Atlanta, you know, that the long, fast corners, the place that rewards bravery and skill. It's special, and you know, seeing Jan all excited, it was just great to see.
How important are the commercial partners in this? It's Canadian Tire Motorsport Park now, and that's, for people perhaps a little further afield, that's a big deal up here.
Oh man, Canadian Tires, they have over 500 stores, right around 500 stores across the country. They've supported me in a few of the nationwide races that I've done, and have a heavy history in motorsports, and it was just awesome for them to step up and help us out, and it's been phenomenal, the response. And again, it's that extra credibility that we've gained from it.
The safety car lights on the Porsche Panamera are out, so we've got the length of the Andretti back straight here to answer this final question.
Come on, Jan.
It's not. It's good to see your car still doing well. Yeah. It's not the work of a moment. You've already achieved an awful lot. How long before you get to where you want this to be with the new facilities?
I think it's going to take a couple of years. Yeah, you'll see another big difference for next year, and then we've got, like I said, Carlos got some great vision. We've got great help from obviously Miles Brand, who's our president and general manager, and I'll just keep working on the racing stuff.
Keep enjoying it, Rod. And you still going to do a few road course races in the stock cars?
We got Watkins Glen and Montreal coming up, and I've never appreciated the driving more than now.
Ron, thanks for being with us. Ron Fellows.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
So much a part of all of the good stuff that's going on here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as we're about to go back racing. Green. I think that Klaus was revved up enough as we go back to the restart with just 11 minutes to go. He's out and away. With Martin Plowman in second place in the first the P2 category, and he's got about 2 seconds ahead of Christophe Boucher with a 0.55 in third, and this is a dash for cash, Jeremy. No doubt about it. No quarter asked or given, particularly in the GT cast.
Absolutely right. That is it. 1, 2, 3 in G2. Bruno Junqueira, the red car right behind him, the prototype car. He's leading PC. And the car right behind him is one of the core Autosport cars. That is Colin Brown, who is 1 lap down. So Bruno Junqueira has a lap on the rest of the field in PC.
A little bit further back down the field. Looking through that, look at how those guys are going through. As everybody's mixed up together, of course, now, Jeremy, and this is when the drivers really earn their money. Ron Fellows is standing sort of leading. For you, wish you were out there right now. There's a big smile on Ron's face as the battles continue through the field. And here comes the 20 car. That's Eric Lux trying to get a little closer to the front of the field in that Dyson Mazda Lola. And there's Plowman. Plowman cutting through the traffic, and he can't afford to hang about either, because just a few cars further back is the 055. The black car on the end of that train is Christophe Boucher, and Boucher has been wound up since he got in this car. Remember, they had to come in for a stop and go on a pit lane speed violation, and that really rang the Frenchman's bell, and now he's got a sniff of the win of the category, and he'll be giving absolutely everything. He did it in qualifying, he's certainly going to do it in the race.
Just past the P1 car, didn't he? Eric Lux, the number 20 car.
No way!
Lux slides down. Yeesh, this is hectic stuff going on here. They're not really battles for positions here in terms of class or overall, but they're all trying to move their way forward.
Now this is on board with Christophe Boucher. Look further ahead and watch out for Martin Plowman's car. Boucher, no hint of a lift there, right into the pit lane exit. And look at just one car ahead. He's Martin Plowman in the 37, and he was right there. There was almost an opportunity to stick the nose in.
And the drivers were told before the race they're not supposed to go into that pit exit road there, even when they're making a pass. So he's got a good run here, though, and this is a battle for the lead in P2 as they're coming around turn 4. Boy, this is heartening out stuff here.
And Plowman did a pretty good job just a moment or two ago to fend off that challenge, and now he's got cars between himself and Boucher. And where is Boucher? Boucher's not in that shot. He hasn't had the best of the traffic, and Plowman is going through the class leaders like a knife through butter.
And really incisive passes there from Martin Plowman. Absolutely super, particularly given the fact he has very little experience in endurance racing and sports cars in general, but he's really driving a beautiful race this afternoon. He was super fast last time out at Lime Rock Park, but these guys at Conquest Endurance, they're still looking for that first victory. Martin Plowman, he knows what it takes. 2 weeks ago, he was a little bit conservative toward the end of the race. He was looking perhaps to make the move toward the end of the race, and then the caution came out with just a few minutes to go, and that negated any opportunity to make a move in the final few laps. So he had to settle for second place. He's not settling for second this afternoon.
He is driving like a man possessed. The Union flag proud on the top of his racing helmet, and he is stretching out. Now, where is Boucher? There's 1 car, 2 cars, 3 cars between Plowman. Well, count that back to 2 again, as through goes one of the Dyson Lola Mazdas.
Yeah, that is number 20 car, which is a couple of laps down. The other car, the 16 car, is actually battle for position overall for second and third place. There is Bruno Junqueira leading in PC.
Yeah, and it's been a steady run from the number 19. And they've inherited that lead when the 8 car had that problem. haven't really got to the bottom of it.
He was ahead just before the 8 car had the problem, because the
point.
8 car just made a pit stop a couple of laps before.
So he was, Jeremy, thank you. Down from the BMW aerial cam. And we're still watching. Oh, there is the black car on the right-hand side of that picture. The 5th of the 5 cars that we can see from the helicopter. Yeah, and that means now that those 2 cars in the back of that frame are battling for the lead of P2. And it looks like Plowman got balked a little bit. He's lost a little bit of momentum. And he's going to have to defend all the way up the hill to turn 5. Now we see whether it's the Nissan or the Honda that's got the power down the back straight.
Yeah, this is the 5th race only in a sports car for Martin Plowman. Christophe Beauchou, he's been around this business a long, long time. So
more than 5 races? Just a few more than 5 races.
Yeah. In the American Le Mans Series, there's actually not that many. He's only done 26, but he's done a massive amount of racing in other races as well.
And here is the call that Jeremy thought might be coming. Remember, he just mentioned a moment ago about the crossing of the pit line blend.
Stop and go for a blend line. Stop and go, pit this lap.
And that has been pulled by the director, the race director. Paul Walter has seen the same pictures that we saw. They have cogitated and they have made their decision, and it's absolutely fair, Jeremy, because he got an advantage by doing it.
Yeah, he did, and you know, he was certainly overtaking some much slower cars over there, but the drivers were all told in the drivers' meeting, you know, you're not allowed to go over that lane, just in case anybody is coming out of the pits. It's a dangerous part of the track. It's a dangerous racetrack in any case here, but you know, it's been around a long time, and everybody knows what the dangers are. And when you're coming out of the pits, you have to keep to the right-hand side of the track. When you're on the racetrack, you know, you've got the racing line doesn't take you over that pit lane exit, and that is the line he crossed.
Pit now.
And he's being told to pit now, pit now. They want him in as quick as possible so he can try and make this one. Now, this is from outside. We saw it from the on board. There is the yellow line. He's the black car there on the right-hand side, clearly over, and clearly he didn't lift, and he's got momentum and gaining an advantage by being in that part of the racetrack. Ron Fellows is still with us, and he's nodding. I'm afraid that's as clear as the nose on your face. From on board, you can tell he doesn't lift. Look, he makes the decision, goes right, and then, Jeremy, you called it. Well done, mate. That's what he did.
Yeah, no, definitely right there. Good call. There is the stop and go to be made. So Christophe Beauchou, he's still going to be on the same lap. He's still in 4th place overall. Guy Smith has passed both of these P2 cars now to move into 2nd place overall. He's about 24 seconds behind the overall leader. We've still got 4 cars on the lead lap after 112 laps, which is a fairly amazing. I think the 2 P1 cars of Klaus Graf in car number 6 leading by about 24 seconds over Guy Smith in car number 16. And then the battle for P2, Martin Plowman leads, and this guy here, Christophe Beauchou, in 4th place.
Still battles on the racetrack, and this is one for the 1st, 2nd and 3rd position in GT as the 0-1. This is just marvellous stuff. Porsche, Corvette, Ferrari. 1, 2 and 3 in GT. 3 of the biggest marks in sports car racing. Jan Magnussen dragging up behind the rear spoiler of the number 45 Flying Lizard, and I'm holding my breath here. That's fantastic driving, though. You can't call that blocking, Jeremy. The Lizard took the defensive line, but took it nice and early and held on to it.
Yeah, and you're allowed to take defensive lines here in the American Le Mans Series as long as you're not moving around in reaction to a driver trying to make a pass. And you can see that the Corvette's got a little bit quicker on that back straight, uphill back straight, but not enough to make a pass. And Jörg Bergmeister is making sure that his Porsche is where it needs to be to make Jan Magnussen. If he's going to make that pass up there, he's going to have to be around the outside, and that is off.
Right on you.
Now, our cameraman is an angry Christophe Beauchou. He's coming round here getting mixed up in this, and I'm not sure this is what Jan Magnussen wants to see. As it comes through, and you can hear the team calling, as they would do on an oval, almost, calling where the car is. And that is Beauchou. Well, he's making his point on the GT battle. Now, has that affected Jörg Bergmeister? I'd say it has, because he had to modify his line into Moss Corner Now the Porsche gets good traction out of here, accelerating, the weight goes backwards, the engine's at the back, you've got traction, and he's pulled out half or a car's length, and that might just be enough to hold on to it as they go into turn number 8. But watch the Ferrari.
Yes.
Look at Van Overbeek.
That Ferrari is very fast on the straights as well. This is a great battle we've got going here. And heads up driving there by Jörg Bergmeister, because he saw the faster prototype coming through. He slowed the car at the apex, got a good run off that corner, and it was just nose to tail all the way up there. And it's going to be nose to tail towards the end of the race. We've only got less than 2 minutes to go here now.
And across the line, and it will depend where the leader is when the checkered flag comes out as to whether these guys get 1 or 2 more laps as they come around this time.
And of those 3 cars, only one of them has won already this season. That is the car out in front, the Flying Lizard. Porsche won last time out 2 weeks ago at Lime Rock Park. The number 4 Corvette and the 01 Ferrari, both looking for their first wins of the season. Number 3 Corvette, I should say.
I think it would be the best result for Extreme Speed Motorsport as well. I'm not sure they've had
a podium.
They have had 1 podium, have they yet? Oh, Porsche, Corvette, Ferrari together. We have 12 wheels, 3 engines, lots of litres and lots of torques. And they are all absolutely on the ragged edge at the moment. Just 50 seconds left. Where is the leader on the track? Please tell us we're getting 1 more lap of this, because I don't want this one to end. Of course, Jörg Bergmeister's going, get the checkered flag out. I want to see that. I want to see that tablecloth next time around. And look at Van Overbeek again, dragging up behind. Here he comes, Van Overbeek rather. Look at these guys in the pit lane. They're watching. Everybody's watching this, even the guys who are about to win the race, Klaus Graf, and I think we will get 1 more at least. Yes, we'll get 1 more lap of this. So my hope was answered.
And the Ferrari there in 3rd place. They finished 3rd, 4th and 4th in the last 3 races.
And here comes the Muscle Milk Pickett Racing Klaus Graf car. They get another lap after this one. Fantastic. So long as the leader doesn't pass them, of course. Klaus, back off a bit. Klaus, this is the radio. Back off a bit.
He's only got 11 seconds over Guy Smith, actually, who pulled 4 seconds on him, 6 seconds on him last time around.
And we have heard that slowing down that we saw in that replay with the 8th car was the ECU problem that we've seen earlier in the season for the Muscle Milk car. So it may be that car's not 100% healthy. He's in the background here, but I don't think he'll put a lap on these cars, so we'll get another 2.5 miles from these 3. And
you're going to have 1 more lap to do, 1 more after this.
That's Thomas Blam talking to Jörg Bergmeister, and Jörg's going, are you kidding me? I'm keeping these guys behind.
He got a great run off Moss Corner, did the Porsche that time around, and the Corvette just not able to get alongside him there that time. So it's a tremendous battle between these 3 completely different cars.
Coming to the white flag for the GT battle. This reminds me of a few years ago when we had 2 different battles on the track.
Buddy. Winners 3 years in a row, pal. Great job, great job.
I love it when the guys in the pit wall do our job for us. That's great. We don't have to look up the stats. We hear it from there. Congratulations. 3 different cars, yeah. 37 and Martin Plowman goes through and takes the flag in P2, but all of our attention and all of the crowd's attention here at Canadian Tires Motorsport Park is on the GT battle, and surely Bergmeister won't give it away now. He's played a canny game here. He's driven perfectly well, perfectly legally. Jan Magnussen, and he came together in the closing stages. Oh, look at the inside. The Ferrari goes down and tries to block pass on the exit of turn 5B. He's just about got through.
Got a bit of a gap, a little bit of gap. Keep going.
He has got through, and that's Van Overbeek on his 100th start, using all of that experience. Jan Magnussen will not take this race to continue his winning streak of at least 1 race in every year of the American Le Mans Series. But will Magnussen have another look back? This is the battle for 2nd and 3rd. Jörg Bergmeister's going, yes, I've got some breathing space, but that Ferrari is quick. 1 more corner, about 200 metres, and it's back-to-back wins for the Flying Lizards. And Jörg Bergmeister and Pat Long make it 2 out of 2 since the Le Mans break.
Wow, what a tremendous race. A great opportunistic pass there by Johannes Van Overbeek. Yeah, it was forceful, but I think it was fair. It was a great pass. I mean, he just chucked that car down the inside. Yes, there was a little bit of contact, but I think it was a fair pass. I really do, and it was a great manoeuvre. And hats off to Jan Magnussen too. He left the door open, and Johannes Van Overbeek filled that gap.
Our battery tender hard charger award, unsurprisingly for that last moment. Let's have another look at it.
Yeah.
Gets along. Do you know what? He's there.
Yeah.
He's right there.
Jan had the opportunity to close the door, and I mean, he didn't. He was trying. He was concentrating, Jan Magnusson, on getting a good exit out of that corner, and that allowed Van Overbeek to dive down the inside. Great racing amongst these three.
When we give you a 2-hour 45-minute race, we actually give you 2 hours and 48 minutes of action as they went on to an extra lap. The American Le Mans Series 5th round class winners are now decided here in Canada.
Everything we ever thought up. Everything we...
Congratulations.
And he should be proud. As I say, it was a little more dominant than that 10 seconds at the end. Should throw a blanket over the top three. Jan Magnusson, Antonio Garcia, Van Overbeek in sharp, and Johannes Van Overbeek celebrating his 100th ALMS start in style. But what a drive, firstly by Pat Long, and then in defense mode for Jörg Bergmeister and Flying Lizard Motorsport. I bet he thought the checkered flag was never coming.
Well, Jörg Bergmeister certainly had a big grin on his face when he climbed out of this 45 Flying Lizards Porsche. But Jörg, you also said, well, we weren't the fastest car on track. How tough was it to hold off that Corvette at the end of the race?
Initially with new tires was pretty good, but in general our balance was a little bit too much oversteer on the long run, but it's really hard to pass here, and I know that from the past. I had a good fight here once before with Dirk Müller, and could have held him behind me for 45 minutes, so I just did the same again.
Well, that makes it 2 wins in a row for the resurging Flying Lizards.
Yeah, and that's a good start actually to point out from Kelly, because those guys had an awful start to the season. Remember at Sebring, they were run into in the 45 car before the season had officially even started. In Prototype 2, it was well, it was a bit of a nail-biter all the way to the end, but it was the 37s that took it.
It was a hard fight right down to the end of the race. Martin Plowman, I know you were fighting down there. You had a great opening stint by your co-driver, David Heinemeier-Hansen. What does this first victory mean to the team?
I have one word for it: finally. I mean, this has been coming for a long, long time, but just bad luck has just stopped us in the past. But today, we said we have to do everything perfect. You know, our biggest enemy was ourselves, and today we did everything right. David drove a great stint. The car was perfect. It was only the last stint there, the last safety car period. That was probably the toughest moment in a race car of my life. I passed a P1 car, a PC car, and 3 GTs in 2 corners, and then I find Boucher was on my tail, so I was like, how did he get there? But then clearly he crossed the yellow line to get an advantage, so then that last 5 laps me.
Well, to Conquest Racing, finally, congratulations.
Yeah, and that restart was an absolute blinder by Martin Plowman, and I'm pleased he thought the same about it as we did. In PC, RSR Racing, Tommy Dreesy and Bruno Junqueira take their first victory ahead of the 2 core Autosport cars, 05 from 06 this time around. And well done to those guys, because it hasn't been the easiest of weekends for the RSR guys. And nice to see another new winner in the American Le Mans Series column.
Victory indeed for the number 9 RSR car, and you guys kind of feel like it's a long time coming. You've shown a lot of speed all season, and Tommy Dreesy earlier this weekend, you almost took a little responsibility for some of those shortcomings. Does this feel like redemption?
Yeah. Early this weekend, I got away with something. You know, I'd like to call it skill, but that was pure luck. And today, you know, I went out, Paul pushed us like he does, and he pushes us to the limit. It's great to drive for Paul and the Genelozzi family and the RSR team. And then Bruno gets in the car, and I thought I did a good job, but then Bruno gets in, and I go, what? And he just was diabolical out there. Bruno did such a good job. And hi to my family and my friends in Hollywood, and Bruno Junqueira, he's a champ.
All right, congratulations to you both.
Very, very tight, Jeremy, now at the top of the PC driver standings.
It is indeed. The core Autosport cars finished 2nd and 3rd there, but Bennett and Brown, they will now pull alongside Alex Popov for the lead in that class.
TRG take the victory in GTC.
And on Emilio De Guida's first race here at Mosport, he said, if you want to win it, it's best to come back with the defending champs. You did just that. Spencer Pompelli, 2 years in a row. You look exhausted. How hard were you working?
Well, it was nice to have that 15-minute break there right before the end, so we were all refreshed and ready to fight. But
I tell you, this race last year was a win that started off a nice streak for us, but hopefully this will be the catalyst that moves us forward. These guys did great. I know we had a little attrition that helped us, but you know, I'm really proud of the effort, and everyone did a really good job this weekend.
Great effort. Congratulations. Kelly?
We saw that terrific pass by Johannes van Overbeek right in the 11th hour. Tell me about getting around that Corvette.
We had a lot of trouble in traffic. The Tequila Patron ESM Ferrari was perfect today. Jan's a tough customer, and I figured that was the only shot I had at him, and I didn't want to telegraph it earlier lap, so I saved it for the last. Luckily, it worked out, and we finished second. Would have liked to have had a win on my 100th race here, but it was a good race, and the team did a great job.
Thanks, Johannes.
And that pass won him the Battery Tender Hard Charger Awards in the Green Challenge. It was Muscle Milk who took it by a fairly slim margin in the prototype category, ahead of the 055 in GT, the Corvette number 3, ahead of Flying Lizard Motorsports. Wow.
So a little bit of revenge there for Corvette winning the Michelin Green X Challenge, but boy, what a fantastic race that was, top to bottom.
Next race, August the 4th, at 12:45 on ESPN 3. Join Jeremy and I at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Challenge. Thanks, Canada. It's been brilliant. Jeremy Shaw and I were on the edges of our seats, and we've been well looked after too. I'm John Hindhaugh. Bye for now.